Chapter 81. The Eight Gates of Life and Death Formation. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. After arranging Feng Xinwu's body, Yi Xiaoyang began setting up the formation. He took out 7 incense burners, using the width of the passageway as a standard to arrange them in a row, poured in glutinous rice, and planted 7 purple flags on top. Except for the flags, everything else was brought by Old Gua. After Yi Xiaoyang finished arranging everything, he brought a small blue porcelain bottle. Yi Xiaoyang opened it and sniffed it, saying, "Is everything all right? You can rest assured about my work. In the past 5 years, I've only spent 3,000 yuan on the furious star chicken blood." After speaking, Old Gua turned his head to look at Lu Ming. Lu Ming, who treated money like dirt, suddenly came to his senses. Seeing him looking at him, he immediately understood what was happening and said, "Don't worry, just charge me everything. Just don't overcharge." Yi Xiaoyang used the blood of the Wrath Star to write a decree talisman, forcefully pulled a few strands of hair from his head, tied them to the talisman, burned them together, turning them into liquid in a bowl, then soaked them in ink and cinnabar thread, took them out, tied them to a flag on the incense burner, and pulled a straight line to the Bodhidharma staff, tying a knot at the top of the staff. Similarly, he also drew 6 lines from the remaining 6 flags to the top of the Bodhidharma Zen staff. From afar, the 7 red lines divided the passage into 7 paths like a swimming pool, each path no more than 1 meter wide, only allowing 1 person to enter at most. Ruo Lingyu returned to her original place, glanced at the 7 incense burners and 7 flags, and frowned slightly. "Is this the 8 gates of life and death?" Yi Xiaoyang nodded and explained, "This 8 gates of life and death mainly borrows the sealing power of the Bodhidharma Zen staff for arrangement." Chapter 82. The King of Corpses appears. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang glanced at them. Most of their bodies emitted blue and green light, indicating that their cultivation had only reached the level of vengeful spirits and demons. Yi Xiaoyang chuckled. "A bunch of good-for-nothings." Old Gua frowned. "Strange, the Yin lair is filled with Yin energy. It should be the fastest place to cultivate. Why have these guys cultivated for 70 years and still only have this much cultivation?" Yi Xiaoyang replied, "Their cultivation has been drained by Feng Xinwu, using the 100 Ghost Yin formation, leaving only 1/10 of their cultivation. Fortunately, the Yin lair cultivates quickly, otherwise they would be even lower." Upon hearing that, everyone felt uneasy and thought of the same question. With such a fast cultivation speed here, Feng Xinwu, she absorbed a large amount of cultivation power again. Ultimately, how powerful has her strength become? Heaven and earth are boundless. The universe borrows its power. Old Gua cut his middle finger, used the blood to dab onto the peachwood sword, and slashed at a vengeful spirit. Little Ma immediately regained his composure, and with a bang-bang sound, fired his gun. The Japanese ghost let out a cry and transformed into a spirit, flying away. Little Ma pretended to blow on the gun barrel, saying, "That felt great." Old Gua turned around and glared at him, scolding, "Hey, are those bullets free? They're just ghosts. I can wipe them all out with my sword. Why did you use a gun? Why didn't you wait until you encountered a vengeful ghost before shooting?" Little Ma felt very embarrassed. This chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. Tan Fong was fighting a leprechaun, turned his head to look, and said sadly, "Why is there a corpse king in the underworld? Could it be that the one from the past didn't die?" Deep Fu Duong did not answer. Now there was no point in searching for its origin. The corpse king had already rushed in front of him. Deep Fu Duong took out 8 pieces of Nguda money, chanted incantations, and released Nguda money into the air. Roar! The corpse king roared in anger. The ground suddenly shook. He waved his hand, directly swept away the 8 pieces of Ngu Emperor money, rushed out of Sin Tu Dao, rushing straight towards Deep Fu Duong. "Lan Nok, come quickly to support. Tu Ma, you and Tavu situate the position of her." The 2 Tu Ma immediately approached Nu Lan Nok's position. Nu Lan Nok ran to Deep Fu Duong's side and asked, Can't you alone deal with the 13 king? Help me for a minute. Don't risk your life. Just avoid it. Having finished speaking, he stepped aside. Before Newland Nok could ask him what his intention was, the 13 king rushed forward. Newland Nok, following Deep Phu Duong's instructions, only defended and struggled for a while with the Tick king. The 13 king is not like normal zombies. Their speed is very fast, but Newland Nok's skills are also very sharp. Not to mention she only defends and does not attack, not revealing any loopholes to T. The king grabbed it, and for a moment it couldn't do anything to her. Deep Phu Duong called Old Quach over and quickly instructed. 3 tails of PCB, 2 tails of cinnabar, 1 tail of Jiao Duk, 2 tails of cicada carcasses, 3 tails of water. As soon as Old Quach heard it, he immediately knew what he wanted to do. Before coming, he followed his instructions, brought everything he needed with him, immediately took out the items from the bag, no need to weigh, just used a little finger to measure each. The stool is enough to know how much it weighs. This is Maoshan's special skill, worthy of one word. Fast. A lot of magic potions have to be cast right on the spot to be effective. If he had waited to bring a scale to weigh and wait for the medicine to be mixed, the person would have been beaten to death by demons. But if you want to practice this special skill, you have to practice hard for many years. Old Quach was extremely skilled. In less than a minute, the magic potion was finished. Deep Phu Duong used a cinnabar pin to soak it in, quickly drew a white talisman. After drawing, drew another talisman, finally drawing a dozen talismans in one breath without stopping. Old Quach stood next to him in horror, saying, "Golden sand to mark the corpse, 1 sheet to mark the corpse, 3 sheets to mark the corpse, 7 sheets to mark the corpse king. Little brother, why did you draw so many? I feel that this corpse king is very strong. Have you drawn so many of them yet?" Surely enough, he drew a few more talismans. In total there were more than 20 talismans. Feeling it, Deep Phu Duong raised his head to look back. The Lich King was frantically chasing and killing Newland Nok. Newland Nok leaned forward to avoid it. It looked extremely dangerous, but every time at a critical moment, she had a way to escape. Deep Phu Duong silently nodded. The little sister of the hereditary spirit master was not alone. Simply, he waited for the opportunity to immediately fly up, holding the Tao Mok sword in his right hand and stabbing it towards the Lich King's back. The Corpse King is not a fool. Feeling the change in his aura, he suddenly turned around and sent the Tao Mok sword flying. Fool! Deep Phu Duong smiled darkly. His left hand was like threading a needle through the Phu King's left arm, pasted a spiritual talisman on his shoulder, turned around, and said to Newland Nok, "Quickly go help everyone. Leave it to me here." After hearing this, Newland Nok turned around and returned to the passage, telling Tu Ma and Ta Vu Tin to leave. Though the Corpse King was taped with a golden talisman, he still frantically pursued Deep Phu Duong. Deep Phu Duong immediately deployed Maoshan Lang Kong Bo to run around its body, imitating Newland Nok's pointless attack, taking advantage of the opportunity to paste another spiritual talisman on its body. The talisman increased. The Corpse King's attack speed slowed down. Deep Phu Duong easily discovered many loopholes, continued to paste, and by the 20th talisman, the Corpse King was completely restrained, standing still in place, his legs motionless, only his 2 arms were there, still swaying back and forth, just like Mom Mummy. Deep Phu Duong breathed a sigh of relief, took out the Tao Mok sword, and was about to completely solve the problem when an unexpected thing happened. The Corpse King raised his head and roared in anger. The corpse energy of his whole body gathered in his hands, temporarily restraining the immortal power of the Kim Sand to cast a spell. His hands tore off his head with a cracking sound. The scalp peeled off, running straight down to his chest. An extremely bloody screen appeared. Deep Phu Duong was scared to death. Waiting until he regained his composure and attacked, he missed the opportunity. The Corpse King tore off his skin to half of his body, using all his strength to jump out of the leather bag. The charm was stuck on his skin. The Corpse King peeled off his skin again, but there was no longer any constraints. Without time to draw any more charms, Deep Phu Duong gritted his teeth, pulled out the 7 Stars Dragon Twin Sword, and purple light shot everywhere. The Corpse King sensed the sacred power of the sword, retreated, and struggled with it this time. The 8 gates of life and death just completed 3 transformations. Everyone took a break, turned to look at the Corpse King. The Corpse King shed his skin, his whole body turned red, some blue liquid flowed on his body. It looked very nauseating. But what made people more disgusting was the layer of meridians exposed on the outside. Each one of them looked like worms, moving and curling up, crawling back and forth. "Oh my God, wormed!" Tavu Tin immediately cried out, then bent down and vomited. "It's not a worm, it's a blood corpse worm." Deep Fu Duong took a breath and scolded. "Damn, this is not a corpse king, it's a blood corpse." Blood corpses are a special form of zombies, originally formed in places with strong blood energy, similar in appearance to ordinary zombies cultivating to become a corpse king, just using blood to cultivate, so their cultivation level increases faster than normal zombies. On the body of the blood corpse, there were no turtle corpses, but blood corpses. Grew. A horrifying cry suddenly came from Sin Tu Dao's side. Deep Fu Duong turned around and saw a demon general holding a Japanese sword in his hand, madly rushing into the formation, his body emitting a purple-black light. Demon leader. Deep Fu Duong was stunned. He didn't expect that this underground nest besides Feng Tamvu also had another ghost leader. Nulan Nok immediately raised the Tone Soul Staff and hit it. At the same time, the blood corpse suddenly jumped up. Deep Fu Duong felt very worried. Right now Nulan Nok was being surrounded by the demon leader. He was surrounded by the blood corpse. At this time, if Feng Tamvu's soul suddenly appeared to attack, the situation would be extremely dangerous, so we had to quickly deal with the blood corpse. Deep Fu Duong bit the tip of his tongue, spitting blood onto the 7-star dragon twin sword. The purple light on the sword immediately lit up a few times. Deep Fu Duong held up the precious sword, chanting the mantra. Revive Tien Vong, stabilize Tien Not. Heaven and earth are mysterious. Yin and Yang are wonderful. Tia Tien Tun, level as commanded by law. Then, slashing the top of the blood corpse's head, its head was cut in half, and a stream of black energy flowed from its body. However, it was extremely strong, knowing full well that it would die. It naturally raised both hands to grab Deep Fu Duong's neck, spitting out a mouthful of corpse gas. The force was not great, but it created conditions for countless blood corpses to climb up his body along his arms, quickly crawling to his face. Chapter 84. Plan B to Exorcise Demons. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. In an instant, Yi Xiaoyang's face was covered with blood corpse worms, countless poisonous insects crawling into his nose, ears, and mouth. Yi Xiaoyang. Xie Yuqing almost screamed in terror. Yi Xiaoyang quickly bit off several blood corpse worms that were crawling into his mouth, spitting them out forcefully. A foul, sour, and pungent smell spread in his throat, making him choke and his eyes water. As soon as he slightly opened his eyes, a swarm of blood corpse worms crawled in again, causing him to jump in pain. "Don't worry about me. Protect the passage." Yi Xiaoyang gritted his teeth and shouted loudly. Xie Yuqing's eyes were already moist, thinking that Yi Xiaoyang was going to die. Yi Xiaoyang yelled, raised his sword, and cut the blood corpse in two. Then he quickly lowered the sword, enduring the pain, took out a talisman from his side, cut his fingertip, and, relying on his sense of touch, wrote a corpse-dissolving talisman. He pasted it on the back of his neck, muttering incantations. In an instant, the blood corpse worms wriggled even more frantically. Too many worms had entered his eyes and ears. Even though he had the protection of a heavenly master's blood to prevent the worms from damaging his organs, the feeling of a swarm of worms crawling inside him was incredibly painful, beyond words. Yi Xiaoyang sat cross-legged on the ground, enduring the pain, his teeth gnawing at the blood corpse worms with a crack sound. After about 10 seconds, he felt them begin to dissolve into thin blood that flowed down his face. His nose also smelled a stronger, more pungent odor. Unable to bear it any longer, he bent over. The diluted blood, containing corpse poison, caused him excruciating pain as soon as it touched his skin. Yi Xiaoyang gritted his teeth and persevered, waiting until all the blood corpse worms had turned into diluted blood before removing the talisman. He shook his head vigorously and shouted, "Bring me some water." Xiaoma ran over with several bottles of mineral water. Chapter 85. Unexpected Soul Possession. Asterisk. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang took a deep breath, clasped his hands, and said, I am a judge of the human world, tasked with subduing demons and evil spirits, preventing you ghosts and demons from harming humanity. No matter what methods I use, as long as it succeeds, I will do it. Feng Xinwu snorted. You always say we are cunning and devious, but what about your Maoshan sect, which also uses tricks? How is that any different from us? Yi Xiaoyang smiled. Of course it's not the same. You kill people, and I kill ghosts, pretending to be righteous. Feng Xinwu sighed, adding, deceiving just like Dao Feng. Before she could finish speaking, she directly flew into the 8 gates of life and death, approaching the gate of death. The formation immediately erupted in raging flames, surrounding Feng Xinwu, but the demonic energy emanating from her completely extinguished them. She disregarded everyone else and flew straight into the gate of life and death. Seeing Feng Xinwu's formidable cultivation, Yi Xiaoyang was speechless. On the other side, several powerful vengeful spirits and evil spirits also flew towards the 3 gates of good fortune. Rui Lunyu and Qin Feng had to focus their efforts on fighting them, unable to help him deal with Feng Xinwu. However, Yi Xiaoyang wasn't too worried. He quickly returned to Feng Xinwu's corpse and, for the second time, cast the Maoshan soul hunting command, pursuing Feng Xinwu's soul within the Yin layer. She relied on the powerful Yin energy within the Yin layer to resist the immortal techniques, but now she was entering the 8 gates of life and death without the assistance of Yin energy. She could only use her own cultivation to cope with the attacks within the gate of death, thus her strength was somewhat diminished. Yi Xiaoyang seized the opportunity to capture her soul. Closing his eyes, he began to cast a spell. Sure enough, Feng Xinwu's soul was pulled forward as if controlled by a rope, instantly flying out of the gate of death, less than 3 meters from the corpse. Chapter 86. I must save her. Asterisk. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang continuously chanted the Maoshan soul annihilation technique, sprinkling his blood onto Xie Yuqing's body. The blood quickly flowed throughout her body, leaving only her heart meridian tightly controlled by Feng Xinwu's soul. Feng Xinwu held onto her heart meridian without letting go. Under the immense power, Xie Yuqing's body began to struggle. Feng Xinwu consumed her cultivation, while Yi Xiaoyang consumed Heavenly Master Blood. Yi Xiaoyang's body grew colder and colder, and the feeling of faintness intensified, yet he remained steadfast in pouring his blood into Xie Yuqing's body. Deep within his consciousness, Feng Xinwu's voice, filled with hatred and terror, echoed. To save her, you're willing to sacrifice your life? Yi Xiaoyang replied with his consciousness, since I've entered, you absolutely must save her, unless you kill me. Otherwise let's fight to the end. Why say so much? Xie Yuqing's soul was tightly bound in a corner of her consciousness. Although she had lost control of herself, she could still see and hear everything. Witnessing Yi Xiaoyang risking his life for her, she was deeply moved, crying out, Xiaoyang, I know I'm going to die. Just leave me alone. Hurry up and help me get revenge. Don't say any more. I said I'd save you. And I will. Under the constant pressure of the Heavenly Master's blood, Feng Xinwu finally couldn't hold out any longer, defiantly saying, Yi Xiaoyang, why don't you let her die? Do you think it's worth it? Or do you like her? Yi Xiaoyang only replied, it's none of your business. I don't like you. After saying that, ignoring Xie Yuqing's painful pleas, he poured even more blood into Xie Yuqing's meridians, burning Feng Xinwu's cultivation. Asterisk. This chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. Nolan Nok retreated towards the formation gate, waved the Tone's soul staff to block the demon tears, persevered for a while. The 8 gates circulated. The Thuong gate changed to Life gate. All the demons were blocked by the array, and in the blink of an eye they disappeared. Deep Fu Duong breathed a sigh of relief. Not long after resting, the beautiful shadow in Deep Fu Duong's hand broke free and flew forward. Don't let her escape. Deep Fu Duong shouted loudly. Nolan Nok pulled out his soul-killing gun and shot Dong, hitting Feng Tam Vu in the back. The soul-destroying gun has super powerful spiritual power, can shoot a bullet to crush a demon's eyes, but when it hits her body, she only feels a little numb. She continues to fly forward, but Tan Fong is faster, deploys the speed of the evil spirit, rushes forward, stopping Feng Tam Vu. Where is Tu Van? Tan Fong asked. I feel that she is nearby. Feng Tam Vu smiled coldly. If you let me go, I will give Tu Van to you. Otherwise we will die together. Our souls will be scattered. Tin Fong was stunned and immediately hesitated. Tin Fong, don't let her bewitch you. Nulan Nok suddenly lost her composure and cried out urgently. If Tan Fong let Feng Tam Vu go, everything would be over. Tin Fong closed his eyes. Feng Tam Vu laughed loudly and flew away. Suddenly, a stream of spiritual energy radiated from Tan Fong's body, blocking Feng Tam Vu's path. Feng Tam Vu stiffened and coldly said, You don't need her anymore? Tin Fong opened his eyes. His voice was calm and steadfast. I believe. I thought Tuvan also wanted me to do the same. At worst, her soul will be scattered. I will wait for her to gather her soul for another 200 years, 300 years. Feng Tam Vu screamed. The negative energy in her body instantly skyrocketed. She raised her hands, screaming, Very well. Come here. Show me your 1,000-year cultivation. Then slightly raising his right hand, a stream of black energy like a poisonous snake attacked Tan Fong. Tan Fong also waved his sleeve and rushed forward. The 1,000-year-old evil spirit confronted the demon leader, fighting for a while. Nolan Nok also rushed in to help fight. One person, one ghost, one evil spirit fought with each other. Everyone opened their mouths wide, watching the majestic battle scene. Feng Tam Vu was worthy of being a ghost leader. Even if he used an enemy or two, he would not fall into a disadvantageous position. Deep Fu Duong was speechless. His cultivation was so strong. If she merged with the ghosts and became Demon Mother La Sat, then even if she came to help fight, she would not be his opponent. Deep Fu Duong, are you watching our performance? Nolan Nok turned around and blamed him. Oh, I forgot. I'm the main character. Deep Fu Duong recovered some magic power, rushed in front of Feng Tam Vu's body, sat cross-legged, held her hands, and cast the Maoshan soul-chasing order. Feng Tam Vu suddenly screamed while fighting, and his 3 souls and 7 souls were gradually sucked into the body. But Nulan Nok and Tan Fong pressed each step. There was no longer a chance to merge into Ta Vu Tin. Soon the soul returned to the body. Feng Tam Vu's body suddenly opened its eyes, freed from Deep Fu Duong's constraints. Stood up, the body began to radiate an extremely suffocating aura. Nolan Nok shouted loudly. Quick! She is about to become a ghost. Deep Fu Duong had already had it. Prepared, both hands made seals, recited the Tien Hoa mantra once. Immediately the wormwood leaves and reeds under Feng Tam Vu's feet burst into flames. 8 streams of flame were emitted from the 8 trigrams. Feng Tam Vu's expression was extremely painful, but she still smiled fiercely, spread her arms, emitting strong resentment to confront the 8 flames. The sheet of soul concentration talisman flew down from her body, followed by a note. 2. You can't surround me. Feng Tam Vu concentrated his resentment on the 3rd talisman, launched an attack, but the 4th talisman quickly flew down. Tan Fong and Nulan Nok stood on the side looking worriedly, not daring to move forward. The formation had formed. Now only Deep Fu Duong was able to control the formation. Anyone else entering would destroy the formation. Deep Fu Duong held the 7-star dragon twin sword and calmly looked at Feng Tam Vu, holding it high. Protect the sword, close your eyes, and mumble a chant mantra. Heaven and earth are limitless, countless dharmas. Dharma is born from the mind, born without breath. Dragons fight in the wild. 10 directions are destroyed. Heaven is only net. Earth is Hell Ma La. Feng Tam Vu on the other side has dissolved all the spells, his hands clasped together, concentrating all the resentment in his body, rushing to Deep Fu Duong's side. That star came out of its shell, beheaded the demon howling star. All the evil spirits turned into tranquility. 1. Tayat Tam Tan, level as ordered by law. Deep Fu Duong suddenly opened his eyes. That star-long twin sword slashed through the air at the powerful resentment, stopped for a second, then split the resentment in half. A sword light flew straight down from the top of Feng Tam Vu's head. 1. Yin Tran. Smoke and dust. This sword had consumed most of Deep Fu Duong's magic power. His legs were almost broken. He fell down and sat on the ground, raised his head to look back. Feng Tam Vu's body had been cut in two. Halfway, blood spread out on the ground. Her soul was still standing here. Her figure gradually became transparent, leaving only a pale color. Her clothes were torn, revealing a bloody wound in the middle of her abdomen. That proved that her cultivation was at an end, so her true body appeared. Deep Fu Duong breathed a sigh of relief, looked at her thoughtfully, and said, "It's all over." In Feng Tam Vu's eyes there was no evil or hatred, only despair. After a while, she whispered, "Yes, it's all over, but I'm not willing." Deep Fu Duong shook his head. "There's nothing to be unwilling about. Your enemies have all been killed by you, even locked up. Entering the ghost battle, suffering for 70 years, your revenge has already been avenged. You are still not willing. So who should you find to reason with the innocent people you killed?" Feng Tam Vu shook his head. "My revenge has already been repaid. There is nothing to discuss. I have killed too many people. Going to the underworld will have to endure extreme torture. The only thing I am not willing to do is..." Dao Feng tricked me. She bowed her head. After a while, she passed. Muttering continued, "I became a devil at a single thought, just for revenge. I wanted to kill everyone in the world, until I met Dao Feng. At that time, for him, I was ready to let go of my obsession, let go of everything. Just wanted to be a normal wandering soul by his side. He said he would save me, lead me away from this place. Unfortunately, he was gone and never returned." Everyone looked at each other in surprise. It turned out that she and Dao Feng really had something to do. And moreover, love story. A Maoshan Taoist and a female devil. Impossible. Nulan Nok was startled. The magic world has a rule. No matter what sect you belong to, as long as you are a magician, you cannot have feelings for demons. This is the thing the magic world despises the most. What's more, Dao Feng is an inner disciple of Maoshan, a typical sect, so being as calm as Nulan Nok when he heard it was extremely unbelievable. Deep Fu Duong smiled bitterly. "I believe you're telling the truth. Normal people can't do this, but Dao Feng certainly can do it. He's the only one who dares to betray the whole sect, but he has been expelled from the sect. Whatever he does has nothing to do with Maoshan anymore." After speaking, Deep Fu Duong turned to look at Feng Tam Vu. "I don't want to explain for Dao Feng, but the fact that he didn't come to find you is not because he didn't want to, but because he went into a place he couldn't get out. And where?" Feng Tam Vu was immediately moved. Deep Fu Duong said, "The place that wizards in the whole world do not dare to enter." Feng Tam Vu opened his mouth. "Could it be? How do you know?" "I guess there is also Tan, too. That can be determined." Deep Fu Duong knew she had understood. Nulan Nok and Ten Fong also knew, because the place that magicians in the whole world did not dare to enter was, too, Tan, a type of recorded document, similar to a decree, used to deliver news and announcements. It could be a stone, steel, or paper. Asterisk. This chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. Feng Tam Vu secretly sighed. Maybe I really blamed him. Talking is useless. Deep Fu Duong struggled to stand up and walk towards her. "I'll save you." "Wait a minute." Tan Fong stopped and asked Feng Tam Vu, "Where is Tu Van?" Feng Tam Vu calmly pulled back his hair, looked at Tan Fong. "Do me a favor. I'll let you meet Tu Van. Before I go to the underworld, give me a dream." Tan Fong hesitated for a moment, nodded, waved his sleeve, turning into a light smoke that slowly swirled around her. Feng Tam Vu gently closed her eyes. Her expression gradually calmed down, extremely peaceful. A gentle girl's smile appeared on her lips. This calm and pure appearance of hers compared to her previous fierce and terrifying appearance seemed to be two different people. Yes, this is her original form. Deep Fu Duong secretly sighed. "Tell me, what is she dreaming about?" Nulan Nok asked in a whisper. Deep Fu Duong gently spit out two words, "Dao Feng." While Feng Tamvu fell into a dream, Deep Fu Duong sat down to control the air's circle around the sky, restored nearly half of his magic power, opened his eyes, just in time to see Tin Fong transform into an illusion, holding a girl dressed as a schoolgirl, her face excited. Tran Lam. Ma suddenly cried out, walked 2 steps forward, then stopped, looking at her stupidly. It's really you. Tran Lam, are you okay? Tran Lam smiled and nodded to Ma. Tan Fong told Deep Fu Duong, let's send her on her way. Feng Tam Vu was still sleeping soundly. Her sweet face was a bit shy, as if she wanted to sleep forever and not wake up. Because she is a ghost leader, the murderous aura is too heavy. The soul charm talisman cannot extradite her. She can only use the Vang Sin mantra to transcend. Deep Fu Duong walked over, gently placed his hand on her head, chanted the Vang Sin mantra, then said, Ceiling returns to earth. Earth returns to earth. Yin and Yang cycle. Life and death are endless. Rewards and punishments are clear. King of Hell's books are very fair. Feng Tam Vu, please leave with peace of mind. Feng Tam Vu's figure gradually faded, then completely disappeared. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, finally successfully transcending Feng Tam Vu. All the ghosts and evil spirits were also almost killed. The hidden nest existed for 70 years, causing countless people to accidentally fall into unjust deaths. And finally, it was no more. It's over. Deep Fu Duong stretched and turned away, suddenly discovered that Tan Fong had disappeared, immediately frowned and asked, where is Tan Fong? The group looked around. No one knew where he went. Ma doubted. What are you looking for him for? It's a redundant question. Of course he has transcended Tran Lam's soul. How could he let her stay in the human world? Ma now understands. Came out, smiled. Okay, they're gone. Let's talk once we've found him. Deep Fu Duong shook his head and said to Nu Lan Nok, I'm very tired, so I'll ask permission to go home and rest first. I'll trouble you to take senior brother Quach inside to check, so it's convenient to clear out some of the negative energy, okay? Nu Lan Nok nodded, walked through the Sin Gate, spit out the meditation staff, cleaned up the 8 gates of life and death, and then joined old Quach. Go inside. Deep Fu Duong told Ma to carry the unconscious Tavu Tin, and the 3 left the underground nest. Lu Min followed behind them, having just witnessed the entire horrifying and thrilling scene. Until now, he still hadn't woken up. His expression was still very dull. Deep Fu Duong looked at him and said, Vice Principal Lu, there's something I want to tell you. Don't say anything about what you've seen, to avoid letting people know. Suspected of fear. Lu Min smiled bitterly. Don't worry, I don't think anyone would believe me if I said it, and they would say I'm mentally ill. Deep Fu Duong nodded and said, Also, remember to pay the service fee. Send it to me via card. Don't worry. Talking about money, Lu Min immediately became excited, rubbed his hands, laughed and said, Mr. Deep, recently our school's economy has stagnated. Can we save a little? Deep Fu Duong rolled his eyes. This old man is as cunning as Mr. Quach. Don't say too much to him. Then said, Calculate with my senior brother. See how much he takes. 2M, giving you a 20% discount. Lu Min immediately appeared happy. Q Deep, Feng Tam Vu killed so many people. Will he be punished when he goes to the underworld? Ma suddenly asked. Speaking in vain. At least she will have to endure hundreds of years of torture. Is it so miserable? Ma slurred his tongue and muttered. She was also subjected to torture. I did harm. Deep Fu Duong glared at him. Is it possible that she is the only one in the world who is the most miserable? Isn't it tragic for people like Tran Lam and Lu Tan Tan who have been murdered by her for no reason in recent years, like Tran Lam and Lu Tan Tan? Punishing her for a few hundred years is not bad. Fortunately, I am easygoing. Since things have come to this point, I don't want to be too harsh. If it were my master, he would beat her soul to pieces and send her to the underworld to enter the reincarnation path for hundreds of years. When gathering her soul, she would also be punished quite a bit. Ma stuck out her tongue without saying a word. After a while, she thought of something. That's right, what about Dong Da's soul? What? Deep Fu Duong said. After being locked up by Feng Tam Vu and her ghost-killing array, I saved Feng Tam Vu, and at the same time saved him. Ma thought for a while, and finally asked a question. I don't really understand. If Feng Tamvu had not murdered innocent people, only killed Dongda and that evil colonel, would he have been punished severely? No. Of course, people go to the underworld after death. Their strengths and weaknesses will be judged by their own judges when they are alive, and those who kill will be escorted to the mountain of knives and hell to be punished. How can you let yourself do it arbitrarily? If every ghost who died unjustly stabbed his enemy to death, wouldn't the human world be in chaos? The sentence will be considered for reduced punishment. The laws of the underworld are not as strict as the words passed down in the world. It's not like they don't have human feelings. Returning to the ground, Deep Thu Duong took a deep breath. Although he was tired and his whole body was in pain and discomfort, his mood became more comfortable. He turned his head to look at dormitory number 4, smiled, and said to Lu Min, "In a moment, you tell my senior brother to go in and do the magic, expel all the negative energy, and then we can reuse this building. It won't work." Anything else happen? Lu Min thanked him 100,000 times. Lu Min drove the 3 people back to their residence, then left. Deep Thu Duong arranged for Ta Vu Tin to lie in a room, briefly checked. Her pulse was stable, there was no problem with her body, then told Tu Ma, "I have to sleep for a while. 2 hours later she will wake up. You stay here to watch over her. Wait for her to wake up. Tell her to hurry up. Quickly take someone to the armory to make a merit. Down there are definitely many good things for her to make a great achievement." After speaking, he went to another room. C*****T***, lay down directly on the bed, stuffed the 7-star dragon twin, sword under the pillow, read the calm mind mantra once, and then fell asleep. In the dream, he saw that he had come to a mountain valley with beautiful scenery, warm spring breeze, faint scent of flowers. Deep Thu Duong was still unaware of it. This is a dream, still wandering around admiring the beautiful scenery, leisurely roaming around. Suddenly, someone behind calls me. Shaman Deep. Chapter 89. I only wish to be a pair of lovebirds, not immortals. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang turned around and saw Qin Feng and Chen Lin, or rather, Xiao Yun. She was wearing ancient clothing, her hair styled in a high bun like a young lady from a noble family, standing beside Qin Feng in his flowing robes, looking incredibly beautiful. It was obvious at first glance that they were a couple. Yi Xiaoyang suddenly realized this was a dream. Qin Feng had created this dream scene. The two walked towards him hand in hand, smiling sweetly. Qin Feng clasped his hands and said, "Master Yi, congratulations. You have conquered and completely eradicated the 70-year-old Enlair. This is a great merit." Yi Xiaoyang looked at Xiao Yun and coldly said, "Not completely eradicated." Qin Feng naturally understood his meaning, smiled, and changed the subject without replying. "Master Yi, you didn't kill. I'm very pleased that Feng Xinwu has helped her soul ascend to heaven. Although Feng Xinwu indiscriminately killed innocent people and harmed the region, she hasn't completely lost her good nature. At least she didn't let Xiao Yun suffer." Huh. Speaking of this topic, Yi Xiaoyang was also very curious. He was very puzzled before. Feng Xinwu killed Chen Lin, who was also Xiao Yun. Why didn't she refine her soul, or imprison her in the ghost-killing formation to torture her? She only imprisoned her for 10 years, and when she came out, she was still intact, with all 3 souls and 7 spirits complete. Qin Feng gently looked at Xiao Yun. "Yun's sister, tell me." Xiao Yun bowed to Yi Xiaoyang and said, "After that woman killed me, she also had time to torture my soul, forcing me to offer up my soul essence for her to control, to harm my lover." 1. Lover. An ancient way of calling a lover. Women often called their lover lang, husband. Yi Xiaoyang's mouth twitched. In front of outsiders, there was no need to be like that, was there? This chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. As soon as Ta Vu Tin left, Deep Thu Duong immediately returned to the living room, moved a chair to sit down. Tu Ma was still sleeping with his butt up on the sofa. Deep Thu Duong took out his cell phone to call Nulan Nok, but no one picked up. While he was thinking about texting her, he suddenly saw something. He stood up, stretched out his hand, and grabbed the black shadow gliding through the air. The black shadow raised his hands to stop, and a shock of black energy pushed Deep Fu Duong's arm away, making him retreat. That's quite a bit of bravery. Deep Fu Duong squeezed a spell in front of him. The shadow immediately dodged aside, waved his hand, and said, "It's me, Deep Tien Master. Don't be so sensitive." Deep Fu Duong stopped, observed carefully. It turned out to be a middle-aged man wearing a European suit and leather shoes. Looked familiar, but for a moment he couldn't remember who it was, so he asked, "What ghost?" "It's me, Ghost Recorder Truong Mo here." The middle-aged man shook his head. "Your Excellency Deep Tien has forgotten me." "Ah, it turns out it's Mr. Truong. I wonder who the hell is so strong." Deep Fu Duong clasped his hands. "Long time no see. Are you looking for me?" "Nothing. Just came to congratulate." "Congratulations? What congratulations?" Deep Fu Duong couldn't figure it out. Mr. Truong chuckled. "You swept away the evil nests and killed many demons. Even though you had to spend negative virtue on the 8 gates of life and death, you still gained at least tens of thousands of years of negative virtue. Let me calculate it for you." He took out a set of abacus, hit catch, catch, a few times, and then said, 76,500 years of virtue. Congratulations." Deep Fu Duong tilted his head to look at him, smiled, and said, "You know very well. Weren't you there at that time? Why didn't you support me?" "Heh heh. Exterminating demonic demons is the duty of your heavenly master Maoshan. I have my responsibility. If it's not forced, then you can't attack. You probably know this rule." Briefly paused, then continued. "You have tens of thousands of years of cultivation. You are not far from being promoted to the rank of rank. So happy." Deep Fu Duong rolled his eyes and replied, "I did not completely destroy the hidden nest, and this time, 9 children are born in one life. It is not easy. Hee hee, but you have also completed the job. Truong Mo specially came to congratulate you." Deep Fu Duong knows that. What did he have in mind? He waved his hand and said, 20 incense sticks, 10 stacks of paper money. I'll burn them for you later." Mr. Truong couldn't help but burst into laughter, clasped his hands, and said, "Thank you. Thank you. Truong, I'm going to say goodbye. If you have any business, please call me." After speaking, he turned around and disappeared. He said, "A.M. Duke. So what is A.M. Duke?" Kuma sat down to ask. Just now, Deep Fu Duong's move on Mr. Truong woke him up. He was still quietly listening to the side. As soon as Mr. Truong left, he couldn't help but ask. Deep Fu Duong stretched out and said, "Brother, fortunately for you today I'm in a good mood. I'll tell you, the tablets of our Taoist disciples are inherently different, starting from Dao Dong, then Fuang Fai, Han Nan, Heavenly Master, then ascending to the Immortal Tablet. That's heaven's secret. You don't need to know. The only way to level up the tablet is to rely on virtue. Virtue is the amount of merit when the Taoist transcends and destroys ghosts and ghosts, not based on longevity. The more ghosts you kill and capture, the more virtue increases. Game, you don't know. The Taoist tablet is Tam Tan Tien Sach. The virtue is accumulated to a certain level, and then performing the ritual to pray to Tam Tan, you can be ordained. Kuma asked, "The higher the tablet, is it true that the magic power is stronger?" Deep Fu Duong said, "The magic power itself does not change, but the higher the tablet, the more magic you can practice and perform, such as having to achieve the tablet. Only a true person can practice the magic of Maoshan's intersect. The 5-element talismans and flags must not be used haphazardly. From Dao Dong to Heavenly Master, when using magic weapons, they must rely on the color of the tablet. In order of yellow, blue, red, purple, the power of each item is different." Titu Ma slowly nodded, recalling that every time Deep Fu Duong cast a spell, he used a purple talisman. He originally thought that all Taoists were like that, but unexpectedly it had something to do with the tablet. Thinking like that, he suddenly admired Deep Fu Duong even more. He chuckled and said, "Little Deep, I often hear people call the Heavenly Master the Heavenly Master. I thought that every Taoist was called the Heavenly Master. You are so powerful. That still needs to be said." Deep Fu Duong raised his eyebrows proudly. "By the way, Little Deep, what is the tablet besides the Heavenly Master?" Deep Fu Duong waved his hand. "I won't tell you. In the future I will have the opportunity to say it." I'm going to take a shower and eat. Deep Phu Duong finished showering and changed into the sports clothes he just bought, originally planning to tie his belt, thinking about how to put it down. It's over. What else should I be wary of? After all, he didn't have any magical weapons with him. He quickly relaxed and told Tu Ma to go downstairs to eat together to celebrate the completion of the mission. The two of them found a quite luxurious restaurant to have dinner, ordered some delicious dishes, a case of beer, and were about to eat and drink. Suddenly, Deep Phu Duong's cell phone rang. He picked it up and saw that Chu Tin Nu was calling. Suddenly, he remembered what she asked him to do and quickly answered the phone. Brother Phu Duong, is everything done yet? Chu Tin Nu asked calmly. It's done. How is your father? It's become more serious lately. When are you free? Now. Where are you? I'll come right away. As soon as Chu Tin Nu gave the address, Deep Phu Duong hung up the phone, took 2 pork feet, and walked out of the restaurant. Before leaving, he also told Tu Ma, eat alone, don't eat. Pack it all up and take it home. I'll eat it tonight. Don't let you waste it. Just say it and leave it. Tu Ma was startled. Where are you going? Ghosts. Coming out of the restaurant, Deep Phu Duong took a taxi to Thachton No. 1 hospital. Based on the room number provided by Chu Tin Nu, he knocked on the door twice. A mature beauty opened the door. Deep Phu Duong was stunned. Without waiting for him to open his mouth, the other person smiled and said, Mr. Deep, please. As soon as Deep Phu Duong entered the door, he was stunned. Seeing Chu Tin Nu rushing towards her, her face was haggard. As soon as she saw Deep Phu Duong, her eyes lit up. Brother Phu Duong, you're finally here. Deep Phu Duong nodded. This room was as luxurious as a luxury hotel. The bed was extremely large, carved with sculptures. On the bed was a man. When Deep Phu Duong looked at his face, he was suddenly surprised, laughing to himself. The person lying on the bed was Chu Tin Nu's father, Chu Min, chairman of Tin Tan Group. On the way, Deep Phu Duong always imagined he was a big-faced man, a tall and bold landowner. Now I know that I was completely wrong. Chu Min's appearance is very domineering. His face is quite handsome. His temperament is elegant and calm. Although his spirit is tired, when he sees Deep Phu Duong, he still perseveres to sit up and respectfully greet him. You are Tu Nu's friend. I just invited you here. I'm very sorry. Tu Lu, pour water for the guests. The mature beauty immediately poured a cup of tea and gave it to Deep Phu Duong, then gently left. Go out, close the door. Mr. Deep, please sit down. Chu Min spoke politely. Deep Phu Duong nodded, did not sit. Just stood next to the hospital bed and observed Chu Min up and down. His expression was very poor. There was a black gas condensing in the middle of his forehead that did not dissipate. Chapter 91. Paperman *. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Chu Jingru walked over and said, My father has been having nightmares lately, afraid to sleep, and frequently has a fever and is mentally distraught. The hospital has checked everything, but still hasn't found the cause. I suspect he's possessed by an evil spirit, but he doesn't believe it. Then last night, I saw it myself. Chu Ming interrupted her, wearily continuing his story. Last night, I woke up in the middle of the night because I was experiencing sleep paralysis. After waking up, I saw a pale white figure crouching on the floor in front of my bed like a dog, with no facial features, no hair, but I felt it staring at me. I almost shivered. It was terrifying. Fear flashed in Chu Ming's eyes. I tried to pull myself together and turned on the light, but I was afraid it would attack suddenly. We struggled for a while until the nurse came to check the room, turned on the light, and the thing disappeared. After saying this, his eyes gleamed as he looked at Yi Xiaoyang. Mr. Yi, may I ask if I encountered some kind of evil spirit? If you can resolve it, I will definitely reward you. Yi Xiaoyang was delighted. Chu Ming was a wealthy man. He could easily make a fortune with just a wave of his hand. He immediately agreed. Chu Jingru suddenly retorted, Father, what are you saying? Xiaoyang is my friend, not a business partner. Why are you talking about money? Chu Ming slapped his forehead. Oh dear, it seems I've gotten used to doing business. I'm truly sorry, but Mr. Yi is a distinguished person. We can't talk about money. Chapter 92. Ordinary Friends. *. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, Please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang asked, how did he know your uncle's date of birth? Chu Ming thought for a moment and said, my company seems to be listed on the government website. My profile and date of birth are attached there. I'm afraid he saw it there. He immediately picked up his mobile phone and called a worker, instructing him to immediately update the profile information on the website. Chu Jingru complained, that old Wang Cheng is disgusting. Father, how about we get our revenge and punish him in kind? He dared to hire a sorcerer to harm you, so we dare to hire a sorcerer to serve him. I'm sure no one is more powerful than Brother Xiaoyang. Chu Ming shook his head. Scheming and insidious schemes are the tricks of petty people. Your father despises them. If I want revenge, I will prove it with my business acumen, making him suffer a crushing defeat in the business world, leaving him no choice but to submit. Yi Xiaoyang's heart stirred slightly. This was the demeanor of a great businessman. His ability to build such a large empire was no accident. Yi Xiaoyang took out a piece of Xian paper, drew a talisman, and handed it to Chu Ming. This is a qi-nourishing talisman. Uncle, stick it on your dantian, just below your navel. It will help restore your vital energy faster. 3 days. Afterward, make sure he can get out of bed and return to normal. Chu Ming looked at Yi Xiaoyang gratefully, even changing his form of address. Xiao Yi. Thank you. You are Xiao Ru's good friend. We are family. I don't know how to thank you enough. If you encounter any difficulties in the future, just tell me. Having resolved the trouble, Chu Ming, although not yet fully recovered, felt more relaxed. He said to Yi Xiaoyang, Xiao Yi, I just saw that your posture for holding the brush and grinding the ink was very skillful. Are you also knowledgeable in calligraphy? Yi Xiaoyang smiled. I've been using a brush to draw talismans for several decades, so I know a little. You're too modest. What do you think of my handwriting? Chapter 93, First Confession. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang sat down opposite her and asked with a smile, Sister, what do you need me for? Ruo Lingyu looked at him and asked, Qin Feng has met you, right? Yes, just met. Yi Xiaoyang shrugged. To be honest, I couldn't keep them. Did he also come to see you? Ruo Lingyu nodded. Yi Xiaoyang asked again, Did you keep them? No. Initially, when we cooperated, I only agreed with Qin Feng to save Chen Lin, and I didn't care about him taking her away. The reason I agreed was because I trusted that Chen Lin wouldn't harm anyone, and it was fine for her to stay in the human world. The beautiful proprietress suddenly came over and brought wine for Yi Xiaoyang and Ruo Lingyu. Yi Xiaoyang said dejectedly, I don't like drinking. Ruo Lingyu looked at him and said, Drink a glass with me, as a farewell. Yi Xiaoyang was stunned, a bad premonition rising in his heart. He quickly asked, What do you mean? It's over. I have to go back to Hong Kong to continue studying with my master. I still have some magic I haven't finished learning. Yi Xiaoyang's heart ached slightly. He picked up his glass and took a sip, frowning as he looked at Ruo Lingyu. Will you come back? That'll be decided later. Ruo Lingyu gave a rare smile. If you have any problems you can't solve, just come find me, but next time I'll charge you. Yi Xiaoyang nodded, thinking to himself that she was just saying that casually. The matter of dormitory number 4 was over. She didn't need to return to Shicheng, and they might not see each other again. The two drank in silence, not saying a word. Nu Lan Nok glanced at her watch, then stood up to leave. Deep Fujung finished the remaining wine and escorted her out the door, only to find it was raining. Chapter 94, Breaking into the Morgue at Night. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Returning to his residence dejectedly, Yi Xiaoyang lay on his bed, recalling his words and Ruo Lingyu's expression. He analyzed each of her words more than 10 times before happily concluding. Ruo Lingyu didn't reject him. He still had hope. Although his first confession failed, not being rejected on the spot was already quite an achievement. He would keep trying. At most, he could do as she said, copying a text message to confess. Even if it was a little nauseating, it would be nauseatingly touching. With a goal to strive for, Yi Xiaoyang felt revitalized, his whole body filled with enthusiasm. That evening, Old Guo arrived, bringing a large sum of money paid by Lu Ming, plus material costs, service fees, and various other miscellaneous fees, totaling approximately 200,000. Seeing so much money, Xiao Ma's face flushed with excitement. Brother, you take 5,000. Consider it service and material costs. Yi Xiaoyang counted the money and threw it to old Gua, then took out another 2,000 and threw it to Xiao Ma. Give 5,000 to Li Duo. He helped a lot. The rest is yours. Xiao Ma said disapprovingly. I only have 15,000. 15,000, and you're complaining? If you don't want it, give it back. Yi Xiaoyang pretended to snatch it. Xiao Ma quickly protected his money bag, pleading, just a little more, just a little more. Please. Dealing with such a greedy person, Yi Xiaoyang had no choice but to throw 5,000 to him. Suddenly, the door opened, and Xie Yuqing walked in. Seeing a table full of cash, she was stunned. What are you doing? Dividing the inheritance. Dividing the inheritance, my foot. This is the reward Lu Ming gave us. We had to exchange our lives for it. Yi Xiaoyang said disapprovingly. Xie Yuqing stepped forward, grabbed a handful of money, stuffed it into her pocket, and said happily, everyone gets a share. I also contributed, so I deserve some. Chapter 95. Drunken Battle Against a Female Ghost. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Xie Yuqing glanced at the third and fourth beds. Clearly, two people lay on them, their bodies covered in white sheets, motionless and silent. Xie Yuqing suddenly felt a shiver. Although she had experience hunting ghosts and killing zombies, she still had an instinctive fear of ghosts and spirits, like a person who needs to eat when hungry, digests it, and then gets hungry again. Moreover, the last time she dealt with zombies and vengeful spirits, there were many people assisting. Now, only Yi Xiaoyang was there, and he was drunk. She had become the main character, standing in the middle of this terrifying room filled with corpses. The more Xie Yuqing thought about it, the more frightened she became. She pulled Yi Xiaoyang's hand and whispered, You scoundrel! It seems there are zombies here. Wake up! Yi Xiaoyang was so drunk he was oblivious to everything in the room. There was nothing there, only a few beds dimly visible. Tired and wanting to find a place to sleep, he pushed Xie Yuqing's hand away and directly climbed onto the first bed, lying on top of the corpse to sleep. Oh no, I can't stay here this time. Xie Yuqing shook her head helplessly. Luckily, she had brought her cinnabar gun. She took the gun from her bag, loaded the magazine, and cautiously walked in. It was either the third or the fourth bed. Xie Yuqing approached the third bed, one hand holding the gun, the other pulling down the white sheet covering the corpse. Beneath it lay a crushed head, seemingly from a car accident, flesh exposed, features sunken, eyeballs shattered, and face smeared with fluid. Xie Yuqing covered her mouth, quickly covered the head with the white sheet, then turned and pulled down the white sheet on the fourth bed. A female corpse with long, tangled hair covering her face lay on the bed. Xie Yuqing took a deep breath, brushed the hair from her forehead to the side, and a ferocious face suddenly appeared, eyes wide open, as if she had died with her eyes open. Xie Yuqing sighed, looking her up and down. Her clothes were tattered, their style unrecognizable. She meticulously observed that the clothing seemed to have been scraped by something, tearing the skin and exposing it to the outside, which was covered with numerous large and small scratches. Based on similar characteristics in the records, she surmised that this was a female corpse that had appeared unexpectedly. Xie Yuqing took a pair of gloves from her bag, checked the tongue, then turned the female corpse over, lifted the clothes, and examined the back. Indeed, there were quite a few corpse marks, indicating the time of death. A corpse, of course, cannot walk, unless it is a zombie. Unfortunately, Yi Xiaoyang was sleeping like a log. Otherwise, she would have made him examine this corpse for signs of transformation. Chapter 96. The Six-Eyed Ghost Child. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. The female ghost knelt on the ground, her hair disheveled, her whole body covered in blood. She looked up at Yi Xiaoyang, her eyes wide open, her pupils almost gone, leaving only bloodshot white irises. She opened her mouth, revealing sharp teeth, yellow pus oozing out, and crawled towards Yi Xiaoyang. This appearance of yours might scare some young girls, and if you're lucky, you might even scare someone to death, but it's useless against me. Yi Xiaoyang shook his head with a wry smile and walked over to her. The female ghost's expression changed. She didn't expect him to be so bold. Not only was she not scared, but she even actively approached her. She angrily snorted and lunged at Yi Xiaoyang. Yi Xiaoyang took a copper bean from his side and threw it at the female ghost's head. The ghost cried out and fell to the ground. The spot hit by the copper bean quickly rotted, emitting a white smoke. Knowing she had encountered a powerful expert, the ghost trembled and tried to fly out the window. You scared me, and now you want to run away? Yi Xiaoyang threw another copper bean, causing the female ghost to fall. He leaped forward, drew out his peachwood sword, held it to her neck, and put his other hand on his hip, asking, "Do you want to fight again?" The female ghost fell to the ground, shivering. Her ghost body was broken, and the door she had closed with her cultivation slightly opened. Xie Yuqing, still too frightened to enter, stood outside watching. Chapter 97. Finally, I get to eat pork buns. Asterisk, this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang nodded. Leaving aside where those sorcerers found so many children, even the refining process isn't something everyone can succeed at. To refine a ghost child, their own magical power must be very profound. If they can't control its blood essence, they might even be retaliated against. Therefore, the six-eyed ghost child basically appeared because of the war years ago, when people were starving everywhere. They could buy children with money, so sorcerers had the opportunity to refine ghost children. The owner of the ghost child likely died long ago, so it chose a new owner, and fearing the heavenly tribulation, it descended to the ghost realm. It's rarely seen in the human world. I've only read about it in books. I never expected to see one today. Xie Yuqing pondered for a moment, then asked, Number 1. That demon said something about the servant of Granny 7. So, is that the demon child? They were afraid she would reveal the secret, so they killed her to silence her. Perhaps. Yi Xiaoyang frowned, saying, Actually, no one calls the demon child Granny 7. However, I'm wondering, what kind of demon is Granny 7 that she has the qualifications to be the master of the six-eyed demon child? How high must her cultivation be? Thinking this, Yi Xiaoyang realized the situation was very serious. Granny 7 might even be stronger than Feng Xinwu, who had cultivation close to that of the demon mother Rakshasa. That woman mentioned Chunlu village, and next to it seems to be a construction site, and also a temple. Yi Xiaoyang said, Let's go investigate there. Do you know this village? I've never heard of it, but I can investigate. Tavu Tin took out her mobile phone, opened the map, typed in Tranlu village, turned on location services, and quickly found the place. Suddenly, she realized, so that construction site is a mountain resort, currently being developed into a villa complex. Chapter 98. Investigating the villa area. Asterisk, this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. After breakfast, the two wiped their mouths and happily got into the car to drive to the mountain villa. Xie Yuqing teased, You scoundrel, where is the young lady from the Xingqing group, your girlfriend? You'll meet her there. Still bragging. Xie Yuqing chuckled faintly. The mainland mountain villa was a desolate mountainous area, surrounded by beautiful scenery, green mountains and clear waters, and quite far from the city, about an hour's drive away. Yi Xiaoyang grumbled. We're already out of Shurqing. Who would buy a villa there? Xie Yuqing said. You don't know. The more remote the villa, the better. People who buy villas don't stay there for long. So much money to buy a house and not stay there for long. Then why? Burning money. Xie Yuqing shrugged. That's why I told you you're too poor. You wouldn't understand even if I told you. The two drove onto a newly built highway leading directly to the construction site. The villa project was taking shape, with a constant stream of people coming and going, creating a bustling atmosphere. They parked their car casually by the roadside and went to the main gate, where the construction site security immediately stopped them. Police investigating a case. Tavu Tin took out her police ID and said to the security guard, Call the manager here. After saying that, she casually walked into the security room, sat down on a chair, and crossed her legs. Yi Xiaoyang shook his head and walked over to her. The old security guard didn't dare delay and immediately made a phone call. A short while later, two middle-aged men in suits arrived. Yi Xiaoyang glanced at one of them and frowned slightly. The man shook Ta Vu Tin's hand and said, "I'm the manager here. My name is Zhang. What do you want?" Ta Vu Tin took out her police ID and asked, "I'm investigating a case. Is there a temple near your construction site?" Chapter 99. The Five Elements Slaying Formation. Asterisk. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Xie Yuqing sniffed, asking, "What kind of demonic energy? I don't smell anything." "Of course you don't smell anything. Are there zombies inside?" Xie Yuqing asked anxiously. "Probably not zombies," Yi Xiaoyang said. "What's inside is even more powerful than zombies. The zombie behind you is the real zombie." "Behind me?" Xie Yuqing turned around in fear, only to see old Feng standing there dumbfounded. "Don't joke, there are no zombies." Yi Xiaoyang didn't answer, his hands on his hips. He asked old Feng, "How old are you?" 65. Old man Feng replied in a low voice, his tone strained. Chu Jingru frowned. "Manager Zhang, why have you been hiring so many elderly workers these past few years?" Manager Zhang chuckled. "Miss, you don't know, he's not a worker. He's just a beggar who wandered to our construction site. I felt sorry for him, so I let him stay here temporarily and gave him some food." Chu Jingru's tone softened, saying, "At least you have some conscience." Yi Xiaoyang shook his head. "Unfortunately, my kindness was misplaced." Then he looked up and asked old man Feng, "Where are you from?" "Jiangbei province." "I don't remember anything else." Old man Feng spoke very slowly, making him seem like a robot. Yi Xiaoyang looked at his vacant eyes, sighed, and said, "You know you're dead?" The people around were stunned by this, standing motionless in disbelief. Old man Feng slowly frowned, a fierce glint suddenly appearing in his eyes, and a gurgling sound came from his throat. "I'm not dead, I'm not dead." Old man Feng roared in a low voice, picking up a steel rod and intending to strike Yi Xiaoyang. Asterisk. This chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. Manager Chuang said miserably, "I destroyed the statue in the temple. At that time, when we cleared the temple, the local residents did not agree. We gave them a lot of money, but they did not change their mind. They said it was not because of the compensation issue, but that they would not let us remove the temple. If you blame me, everyone will face disaster." Because General Lai had delivered it, I immediately led people to smash the statue in front of the people. The native people were afraid of their untimely fate, so they all moved away. I didn't believe in these things, but what I just experienced. Manager Chuang said sadly, "Mr. Deep, are there really ghosts here? Will I be okay?" "You already have." Deep Fu Duong looked at him. "Open your mouth." Manager Chuang looked at Deep Fu Duong in a daze, then looked at Chu Tin Nu, raised his hand, and slapped himself in the mouth. Deep Fu Duong opened his eyes wide. "What are you doing? Didn't you tell me to slap my mouth?" Manager Chuang asked innocently. Deep Fu Duong was helpless. "I asked you to open your mouth. Open your mouth. Do you hear me clearly? Do you have ears?" Manager Chuang scratched his head, opened his mouth. Tavu Tin and Chu Tin Nu looked at it, suddenly startled. Except for his two teeth, which were still normal, his entire mouth was pitch black, looking very strange. "You didn't know there was a problem with your mouth?" "Huh?" Deep Fu Duong asked sadly. "Yes, I've been to several hospitals and haven't been able to find any problems. Furthermore, my body is very good. There are no abnormalities. I'm planning to find some Chinese doctors to come and see." "Mr. Deep, what exactly is wrong with me? Please help me." Manager Chuang begged in pain. "If the corpse is in your body, you only have a week to live. After turning into a corpse, someone else will use it." Deep Fu Duong shook his head. "Fortunately, that person wanted to make you a ghost deputy. Didn't want to kill you, otherwise you would have followed Mr. Feng a long time ago." Manager Chuang heard that. His legs became weak. He knelt down on the ground in shock, begging, "Mr. Deep, quickly save me. I will give you everything you want, even my wife." Deep Fu Duong's head immediately flowed a black line. "I want your wife. What are you doing? Can your wife compare with the two beautiful beauties next to you?" Deep Fu Duong told him to stand up, go to his office, close the door carefully, take out a bowl from his back pocket, put the cinnabar and cinnabar powder in it, stir the water, force Manager Chuang to drink it all, Then sprinkle the cinnabar into a trash can. Kick the trash can at him. Puke it all in here. Don't vomit it 1,000 times. Outside, Manager Truong's face became more and more red. His breathing was rapid, and not long after, he actually vomited into the trash can, more than 10 minutes before stopping. Waiting for him to raise his head, Chu Tin Nu and Tavu Tin instinctively looked at the trash can. Suddenly, goosebumps appeared. In the trash can there were countless sticky black insects, all stuck to the layer of liquid and struggling to move. There's also a huge beetle. Oh my god, what is this? Chu Tin Nu asked in bewilderment. Deep Fu Duong replied. Turtle corpse. In his body there is a very heavy poisonous corpse that has transformed into a turtle corpse. Fortunately, it has not been long since it was formed. After a few days, the turtle corpse will bite his internal organs. The poison will spread throughout his body. He will turn into a zombie. Deep Fu Duong said to Manager Truong. From today onwards, every day you drink 2 bags of Hung Hong water. 3 days later, the poisonous corpse inside the body will dry. Then there will be nothing more. Manager Truong thanked the gods for their kindness, moved to tears. How should these turtle corpses be handled? Chu Tin Nu said worriedly. Deep Fu Duong closed the lid of the trash can and said, there is no longer the poison corpse to maintain, plus cinnabar suppression. They won't live long. Don't worry. Waiting for Manager Truong to calm down, Deep Fu Duong said, now tell me, what does that statue of that lady look like? Manager Truong thought for a while and said, it's female, man. The three of Deep Fu Duong glanced at him. Tavu Tin said, what nonsense are you talking about? Since people call him that, Mrs. Ba, is that a man? Could it be that the devil is still a fake wife? 1. Lady Wei. Pretending to be a girl. Manager Truong scratched his head, hesitated for a moment, then shook his head and said, I really can't think of what it looks like. It has an unsightly appearance, a bit ugly, human-like, but not human-like. Deep Fu Duong pondered. So to say, that lady is a monster? Quickly asked. Think carefully. Does her appearance resemble any animal? Manager Truong thought for a long time, waved his hand and said, I really can't think of it. I've only seen it once. I don't remember clearly, Mr. Deep. Maybe you should find some villagers to ask. They definitely know better than me. Deep Fu Duong nodded. This is also a good way. By the way, ask a little about the history of the village. That Baba temple. Then Manager Truong returned to the construction site to get a car to take the 3 of them to a nearby tourist village. The 3 entered a small room. Just as they were about to sit down, the outside suddenly changed. Dark clouds filled the sky. The sky instantly became dark. Manager Truong stood up. It's about to rain. I have to go back to the construction site to arrange for them to cover. I'll be there in a bit. After speaking, he ran out. Deep Fu Duong said, by the way, I inform everyone not to go to that Baba temple, nor to any nearby places. Manager Truong received the order to leave, borrowed an umbrella from the landlady. As soon as he left the tourist village, the rain poured down. The rural dirt road was so soaked that it was impossible to drive. Manager Truong had no choice but to walk, cover himself with an umbrella, and run towards the park. School. From here, returning to the construction site, he had to pass by that Baba temple. Originally, he didn't want to take the small road, but there was only one road left. If he went around the main road, it would take another half an hour to get there. By the time he returned, the rain would have stopped. He immediately gritted his teeth and walked down the small road. When passing by that Baba temple, Manager Truong instinctively glanced inside, suddenly saw a person entering the yard. It was dark, without looking clearly who it was. There was just a flash of lightning. Manager Truong could see that the other person was wearing a green work outfit and an orange helmet. That if that person was a worker, he would be wearing a yellow helmet and light blue work clothes. The same outfit and appearance. There were only supervisors on the construction site. There are not many supervisors. Today there were only 2 people in charge. Manager Truong looked at the person's back. Someone shouted, it's Mr. Thoi or it's Mr. Vong. Don't come in. I'm going in to take shelter from the rain. Old Vong's voice rang out. Quickly go back. It's very dangerous in there. Manager Truong was so urgent that he cried out, but there was no reaction inside. Manager Truong was worried that he was in danger, gritted his teeth and walked to the door of the courtyard. Seeing the old Vong about to enter the temple, towards the broken statue. "Old Vong, you come out quickly. Come out here quickly." Manager Truong cried out hoarsely, but the storm was too loud. Maybe Old Vong didn't hear him, only saw him standing there without moving. Manager Truong struggled fiercely inside. In the end, his kindness was still greater than his fear. In one breath, he ran behind Old Vong, scolded him. "Are you deaf? Can't you hear what I said? Quickly follow me." Then he approached and grabbed his sleeve. Old Vong stiffened and did not move, one hand raised to his face, not knowing what he was doing. Manager Truong suddenly had a bad feeling, slowly walked over, looked up, and was suddenly so scared that he took a few steps back, leaning against a pillar, dumbfounded witnessing the strange scene before him. Old Vong was applying lipstick. Chapter 101. Who wears the burial robe? Who wants to skin her alive? This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. His height was probably over 1.8 meters, and he weighed 108 kilograms. Yet at this moment he was holding a lipstick in his hand, gently applying it, his expression as intoxicated as a young girl's, making the scene extremely bizarre. Manager Zhang didn't feel nauseated or disgusted, but only truly terrified. He immediately thought of strange occurrences, believing that this must be related to ghosts. He prepared to run away, took a deep breath, and headed towards the temple door. Suddenly, he heard a click, and the door slammed shut. Manager Zhang tried to break it down, but couldn't. The temple door was already dilapidated, and there wasn't even a lock, yet it was locked shut, making escape impossible. Manager Zhang fell to the door, sliding down and sitting on the ground, desperately looking back. Old Wong finished drawing his lips, and somehow produced an eyebrow pencil and a bronze mirror. He used the mirror to draw his eyebrows, singing a song while doing so. This was the voice of a woman. The content of the song was unlike any popular song on the market. It was a folk Huangmei opera. 1. Manager Zhang only vaguely heard a few extremely terrifying lines. Entering the door slammed shut, drawing fire, lighting lamps. "Look, who is wearing a shroud? Who wants to skin someone alive?" 1. Huangmei opera. Huangmei opera. Huangmei dance, a type of opera, comedy, from Anhui province imported from Huangmei, Hubei province, China. A chill ran up Manager Zhang's spine, spreading throughout his body. He felt his mouth and tongue dry, and he couldn't even cry for help. Crying. Due to the dim light in the temple, only the distorted figure of Old Wong was visible. The bronze mirror happened to reflect Manager Zhang's face, and he saw not Old Wong's face, nor his own, but the face of a woman. Chapter 102. The Village Chief's Killing Intent. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Manager Zhang shook his head, despair in his eyes, and whispered, "It's useless, you can't fight them." Xie Yuqing suddenly felt a drop of water fall on her neck. She reached up to wipe it, only to find it was blood. She looked up and wanted to scream. A person was hanging from the rafters, head drooping to the ground, tongue sticking out. "Manager Zhang, it's Manager Zhang," Chu Jingru shouted, suddenly turning her head to look. Manager Zhang, on the bed, was being embraced by a pale, withered arm, being dragged directly down into the gap below. Go quickly, you can't fight them." Manager Zhang's voice still echoed in the room. Yi Xiaoyang sighed inwardly, standing still without moving. Manager Zhang's soul had been locked away. It was too late to rescue him now. The soul remaining in the room was the killer's deliberate message. "You can't defeat me." Yi Xiaoyang and Xie Yuqing dragged Manager Zhang's body down, carried it out the door, and told her to call someone to handle the situation. He returned to the room once again, looking left and right, and said loudly, "I don't care what kind of evil god or demon you are. If you can protect the people of this region, I will worship you as a god. But if you kill living beings, even a saint won't be able to stop you. Others have no way to catch you. But I, the heavenly master of Maoshan, will act on behalf of heaven, enforce the law in the human world, and slay immortals and gods. If you don't believe me, just try it. When I catch you, I will definitely make you suffer a fate worse than death." After saying this, Yi Xiaoyang made a hand gesture, slammed his palm against the door, then turned and walked away without looking back. Xie Yuqing called several colleagues to come and take away Manager Zhang's body. She also had to return to report the situation and discuss the case. Yi Xiaoyang and Zhou Jingru returned to the tourist village. This chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. What are you asking for? The matter is related to a murder. I hope the master will cooperate. Deep Thudong said politely. The old village chief said, yes, as if he was not concentrating. His eyes turned to the TV, pretending to be watching very attentively, and casually replied, I heard what the old people said. That temple was built when the Thunder King came to the capital. Deep Fu Duong scratched his head and asked, who is the Thunder King? 1. Thunder King, Lai Tu Tan, 1606 to 1645, originally known as Hong Ko, Fengji, nicknamed Thunder King, was a figure in Chinese history who lived at the end of the Ming Dynasty, led a peasant uprising that overthrew the Ming Dynasty in 1644, proclaimed himself Emperor Deis Hun, founded the Deis Hun Dynasty, ascended the throne, captured the capital city of the Ming Dynasty, but was later usurped by the Manchu Qing army. Chu Jing Nu looked at him and said, he was the leader of the uprising in the last years of the Ming Dynasty. The last years of the Ming Dynasty. So about a few hundred years ago. Deep Fu Duong continued to ask, why did they build temples? Why? The village elder said indifferently. Where is there no temple? Who knows why? Deep Fu Duong said, if it is a temple, it must have a proper background. Besides, the name of the temple is so clear. That lady, who exactly is that lady? Is the person in the temple a fairy or an evil spirit? A look of horror immediately appeared in the village elder's eyes, and he immediately returned to normal. Usually, shook his head and said, I don't understand what you said. I don't know. Quickly go find someone else. Don't send him away. Deep Fu Duong sat still and motionless, tilted his head to look at the old man, smiled. On your body there is a strong smell of cinnabar and wormwood. The tips of your right fingers are red. You must have fiddled with these two toys last night. If I guess correctly, you must not be a normal person. More precisely, Mr. is a magician, a folk magician. The village elder trembled, removed his disguise, looked at Deep Fu Duong in surprise, and asked, who are you? Maoshan inner disciple, Deep Fu Duong. The village elder slowly opened his mouth, mumbled, is it true? Deep Fu Duong did not answer, sniffed his nose, and said, there is a murderous aura in that room. Very strong, definitely an evil object. I guess you touched the cinnabar and wormwood leaves because you wanted to deal with it. Is that right? But you haven't been able to solve it yet. The old village chief stood up, staring at Deep Fu Duong with wide eyes. Deep Fu Duong sensed his hesitation, forged the iron while it was still hot, and immediately said, if you need help, I can take action, but you have to tell me the truth of the matter. Perhaps you also know, your seventh wife has been harming people, killed 2 people last night, and killed 3 people today. If he goes down and kills the villagers, you don't know how many more people will die. With just a little of your magic power, do you think you can handle it? The village elder asked again. Deep Fu Duong shook his head, raised his right index finger to draw a line on the village elder's face. A powerful aura rose from his face, hovering in the air for a long time without dissipating. This calm expression of his completely eliminated the village elder's doubts. He sighed, saying, the statue has also been destroyed. You are Heavenly Master Maoshan. Can you fight it or not? About your matter, I have nothing I can't say. The evil thing is right in my daughter-in-law's belly. What? Chu Tin Nu covered his mouth and cried out. The old village chief once again sat down on the edge of the bed, was silent for a while before continuing. I'll tell you from the beginning. Our village was originally at the foot of the mountain. A total of about 5 or 6 villages, all believed in worshipping that Ba temple. The story was a long time ago. I don't know much about the specifics. I only know that my ancestors passed down that that Ba didn't originally know what kind of demon she was, transformed into a human form, got married to a person. In the village, people say that not long after, someone suddenly died in the village, turned into an executioner, and injured others. The villagers invited a few magicians, but none of them could deal with them. And then they invited another. The Venerable has spared no means to destroy the executioner. The monk said that there was a big monster in the village. He wanted to check a series of houses, then found that guy's little wife. The two of them fought each other. The demon girl was not the monk's opponent. The monk could not destroy it. The monk from the other side negotiated with it, set up a shrine to worship, enjoy incense. But it could not harm anyone anymore. The demon girl agreed. The villagers also agreed, because before it used the fake name of that girl. That's why today people call it that Baba. When the temple was being built, the monk from outside showed off the formation, and the female demon willingly volunteered to go in. From then on, this temple was worshipped by the villagers, out of responsibility and fear, but then a few villagers came to pray, saw it fulfilled, and began to truly worship that lady for the past 200 years. One night, Mrs. Seven suddenly gave a dream to the patriarchs, telling them to give a child every 5 years for her to practice. Hearing that, Chu Tin Nu's face lost color in fear. Deep Fu Duong coldly snorted and said, "Love, clearly love." The village chief continued. At that time the patriarchs did not agree, and on the evening of the second day in the village, for children were lost, and in the next few days again found their remains in the temple. Everyone could do nothing but agree, but no one published the news, nor could they choose whose child they had because they didn't want to sacrifice their own children. So the clan leaders had to make a contract with that lady. That lady only selected women who were suspected of having twins. When they were first pregnant, they sprinkled one of the fetuses with murderous aura, sealed it, and waited until the birth was complete. Then at night, they sent a ghost assistant to secretly sneak in. Took it away. It has been like this for 200 years. Although the people in the village found it very strange, they did not think about this. After all, the 5-year cycle is still very long. That is also the secret of the patriarchs that has been passed down to this day. My family was originally the head of the Nyo family of the village. Later, he was elected as the village schoolmaster. During my lifetime, in the village, I was the only one who knew the secret. Our ancestors learned some folk magic, but their abilities were limited. Speaking of this, the village elder sighed softly. I didn't expect my young grandson to be chosen. Yet I still console myself that if my daughter-in-law is pregnant with twins, she can still keep one child. From the time the child took shape for 3 months, I felt the murderous aura sealed in its body. Who would have thought that the statue would be destroyed, everything would change, the seal was removed, the murderous aura revealed. Now it is estimated that the other child has also been infected. I don't know if there will be time to save him. Whether you can save my grandson or not. If you can save me, I will set up a longevity tablet for the great magician. The whole family will worship forever. Deep Fu Duong, after listening, seemed to have guessed a few parts, temporarily not thinking about it anymore, said, "Take me to your daughter-in-law's room." The village elder quickly led the way, went to the first floor. He knocked on the door of a room. His son, Chu Quan, opened the door. Chu Quan opened the door. Chu Quan opened the door. "How is Fuang?" the village elder asked. "It seems like he has a fever, not very." "Good," Chu Quan replied gloomily. The village elder nodded and invited Deep Fu Duong to come into the house. Chu Quan tried to stop him, but was scolded by the village elder. As soon as Deep Fu Duong entered, he immediately felt a murderous aura strike his face, glanced at the bed. A pregnant young woman was lying on the bed with weak eyes. Her face was pale, in the middle. Her eyebrows were covered with a layer of black energy. The weather was as hot as fire. The young woman was covered with a cotton blanket and a wool hat on her head. The village chief immediately explained. Before it was a little better, but in recent days it suddenly said it was cold. If murderous energy entered the body, of course it would be cold. Van Tu saved her and brought her back to Maoshan. Her life changed from that moment on. Deep Fu Duong sat down on the edge of the bed, lifted up the cotton blanket, and saw that little Fuang's belly was unusually bulging, bigger than the bellies of pregnant women about to give birth. Of course, not only the twins, there was also murderous intent in her belly. Chapter 104. Pus flowing from all internal organs 1. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. The doctor was not reserved. Yi Xiaoyang lifted Xiao Fang's nightgown, placed his hand on her belly, and immediately felt a bone-chilling coldness. He immediately released some warm energy into her body, feeling the movement of the fetus. He stood up and said to the village chief, "Let's go. We'll talk outside." As soon as the group left the door, the village chief hurriedly asked, "Great master, how are the mother and children?" Yi Xiaoyang said, "There is indeed a malevolent spirit inside her body. The malevolent energy has broken through her body, infecting the fetus and the mother. In less than a week, all three will become zombies." The village chief's legs went weak upon hearing this, and he couldn't stand. His son, Xiao Jun, had to support him. Xiao Jun angrily glared at Yi Xiaoyang. "What nonsense are you talking about? The doctor said it's just a cold." The village chief slapped his son's face. "Shut up," Yi Xiaoyang asked. "When is she due?" Xiao Jun, holding his cheek, replied, "The doctor said around Sunday." Yi Xiaoyang slowly nodded. "That's right. In the current situation, no matter what we use to dispel the malevolent energy, it will all be absorbed by the vengeful spirit. If we anger it and let it cause trouble in the womb, then it's unpredictable, and we'll have to suffer the tragedy of one corpse and 3 lives lost. The only way is to make her give birth early." The village chief and Xiao Jun stared at each other with their mouths wide open. No, that's not possible. It's too dangerous." Xiao Jun repeatedly waved his hands. "If we don't do that, you'll all suffer the tragedy of 1 corpse and 3 lives lost. If the vengeful spirit gives birth at This chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. Mrs. Lu called her daughter to quickly prepare things to deliver the baby. The village chief went to boil water, and only Deep Thiu Duong and Chu Tin Nu were left in the room. "Brother Thiu Duong, are you okay?" Chu Tin Nu urgently asked. "I heard a scream." Deep Thiu Duong was originally about to say, "I haven't given birth to a baby. How can I know if the other person is okay?" After thinking for a moment, he joked, "Don't worry. I'm here, it's okay." The room next door continuously heard Tu Fuang's pitiful screams along with Mrs. Lu's sound of delivering the baby. The two sides struggled for about 20 minutes. The other two were still waiting anxiously. Waiting, especially Chu Tin Nu. As soon as he heard the sound of a baby crying, he couldn't help but burst into laughter, let out a sigh of relief, and muttered, "That's so good." Deep Thudong quickly stood up and rushed to the door of the delivery room, shouting, "From this moment on, no matter what you see, don't panic. Everyone must be absolutely silent and bring the child out to me." Tu Fuang in the room bit a towel, trying to control her screams. Mrs. Lu glanced at her daughter, originally about to speak, then suddenly remembered Deep Thudong's advice, so she swallowed it back, placed her hand on little Fuang's stomach, gently stroked her vagina, and at the same time cheered her with her eyes. Finally, the head came out. Mrs. Lu instinctively raised her hand to catch it, but the child suddenly slipped away from the mother, lowered her head to look back. She almost wanted to scream, quickly covered her mouth, and took a few steps back. The child's head was almost twice as big as a normal child. The skin was as white as paper. The eyes were long and small. The corners of the eyes were still wide enough to reach the ears. The pupils were slightly red, covered in blood. N01 helped the baby, but it slipped out on its own and just fell to the ground. Immediately knelt on the ground. His appearance was not much different from that of a child, but his arms were very long. Each hand had only 4 fingers, and black energy lingered above. It shook its head, stuck out its tongue, pursed its lips, ate up the blood stains at the corners of its lips, then grinned at Mrs. Lu, revealing 2 rows of sharp fangs. That child was clearly a demon. Even though Mrs. Lu and her mother had prepared themselves mentally in advance, they were still scared to the point of unconsciousness. Tu Quan was afraid that his wife was in danger, so he suppressed his fear, used a blanket to cover her and the baby, hugged them both, and ran out. The old village chief quickly opened the door to the room next door for his son to run in and hide. The ghost on immediately crawled over to Hua Na Guan, waving his arms and legs while laughing and chirping. Only his expression was fierce to the extreme. Hua Na Guan retreated to the corner of the wall. Her legs went weak. She slid down, covered her face with her hands, and burst into tears. Ghost On jumped directly to her knees, suddenly afraid of something on her body, not daring to come close, just constantly making countless scary expressions, then howling strangely. her two pupils hanging from her eye sockets, fresh blood flowing from her eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. Using a shrill voice screamed, "Blind eyes, deaf ears, all internal. Organs are leaking pus. Blind eyes, deaf ears, 6 internal organs are all leaking pus." It screamed twice in succession. "Ay. Hua Gwen finally couldn't help but cry out. Her eyes twitched, and she fainted. Ghoston looked at her with her mouth open in fear, smiled, leaned close to her head, opened her mouth, and let out a breath that a bronze mirror suddenly stuck straight into Ghoston's mouth. Corpse gas shot onto the mirror's surface, immediately turning into black smoke, turning the mirror black. Quion raised his head, looking resentfully at the mirrors. Owner, Deep Fu Duong pulled the bronze mirror back, smiled and said, "Come and suck your man. Hey." Quion was of course not polite to him. His limbs touched the ground, wiggled his body, then climbed to Deep Fu Duong's feet, jumped up, grabbed his neck, and sprayed a mouthful of corpse gas into his face. Deep Fu Duong didn't pay any attention. His hand grasped the spell, one palm patted Ghost Mon Mon Quion, then shouted loudly, causing it to roll straight from his body to the ground. Knowing that this person was difficult to deal with, it turned around and ran out the door. Mrs. Lu was hiding behind the door. When she saw Ghoston running towards her, she opened her mouth in panic. Deep Fu Duong thought to himself that he was dead, quickly chased after her. The ghost brother immediately grabbed Mrs. Lu's mouth with his hand. His soul left his body, and a white shadow escaped out of Ghoston's body into Mrs. Lu's mouth. Ms. Lu's whole body trembled. Her face suddenly turned pale. Her eyes suddenly twitched. "You cruel." Deep Fu Duong stepped forward quickly, cut off his middle finger, placed the mark on Mrs. Lu's line, and then extended it down to the bottom of his chin, drawing a bloodline to cover Mrs. Lu's soul, avoiding being hooked by Ghoston. Mrs. Lu howled strangely, strangling Deep Fu Duong with both hands. Deep Fu Duong leaned forward to avoid it, grabbed Ms. Lu's left hand. 2 fingers of his right hand grabbed Mrs. Lu's middle finger, gently pulled, walked backwards. A white shadow was pulled out from Ms. Lu's body. That was the ghost of the ghost brother. It was struggling with all 4 limbs, fighting back strongly. It's just a brother who killed prematurely, but the anger is so heavy. Deep Fu Duong shook his head, his left index finger pressed down on the demon Mon Mon demon on. Chanting the spell, a pitiful scream rang out. The Ghoston spirit quickly dispersed, disappearing into the air. Hua Gwen woke up, saw her mother lying motionless on the ground, crying loudly, and rushed over, shouting, My mother, my mother! My mother is okay." Deep Fu Duong drew a Kosol talisman and stuck it on the back of Mrs. Lu's neck. He asked Hua Gwen to carry Mrs. Lu to the next bedroom, put her on the bed, told her to stay and watch, then went outside. As soon as the old village chief saw him, he ran over in panic and asked, "There's nothing wrong with the adults, but the child's face is pale and still unconscious. He's been with Guayon for too long. Hey, gas into the body. Living until now is a great blessing. Lead the way." Deep Fu Duong followed the village chief to another bedroom, checked the condition of the pregnant woman, and saw that she was in a coma. However, everything was normal. The corpse gas in her body had also been eliminated. Only the child was pale, his eyes shining blood red, looking strange. Deep Fu Duong returned to the room where he was fighting, broke 2 fangs on the body of Quion, then returned and placed it on the child's mouth. "What are you doing?" Qiu Quan asked worriedly. The killing corpse's fangs have the ability to absorb corpse energy. The killing corpses rely on it to practice. Just borrowed it. After speaking, Deep Fu Duong pressed down on the child's head and chanted the corpse talisman, dispelling the corpse energy from his body. The corpse energy did not need to be guided, but automatically flowed into the fangs. When filled, the fangs had also changed. The blue color on the child's body gradually disappeared. After a while, Deep Fu Duong let go and said, "Okay." Quickly put the TT hone next to the child. 2 days later it will expel all the corpse energy residue in the meridians. At that time the child will be safe and sound. The village chief and his father were extremely happy. Quickly bowed his head and bowed to Deep Fu Duong. Deep Fu Duong waved his hand. "Don't be in a hurry. You all know what is called a killing corpse. The soul of a killing corpse is sealed in the mother's body. Only the body becomes a corpse, belonging to a type of ghost corpse. Right now, I have only eliminated the corpse energy in this child's body. The demonic energy is still not gone. After speaking, he pointed at the child's eyes. His eyes were still blood red. So, what should we do? The village chief was immediately upset. This must be treated with a demon tongue. Deep Phu Duong scratched his head, thinking to himself that he was careless, just directly killing Ghost on and forgetting about the treatment that needed to be done. In broad daylight, where would he go to find another demon? He immediately turned around and asked the village elder father and son, "Where is your village's cemetery located?" This chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. Right on the northern mountain behind the village. Chu Quan replied, 1,000 times don't go. There are a lot of ghosts there. The village elder scolded. The great Magus can still deal with slayers. What are you afraid of little ghosts? Deep Phu Duong said, "Tonight I'll go look for the tip of the devil's tongue. You guys stay behind and dig a hole. Then pour in 2 kilos of lime and 1 kilo of cinnabar. Then bury the slayer underneath. Remember, you have to dig the hole at least 2 meters deep. If the evil spirit does not develop, it will easily lead to epidemics." The village elder sent him to the door, sighed, and thanked the heavens for their kindness. "Great magician, lady, you are both good people. I wish you white heads to be old and give birth to noble children." Chu Tin Nu immediately blushed and covered his mouth with a smile. Deep Phu Duong smirked, tilted his head, and asked the old man, "Who said we are husband and wife?" The village chief was stunned. "Isn't that right? You two are not married yet. So when will you get married?" Deep Phu Duong silently shook his head, turned, and left. Along the way, Chu Tin Nu followed behind him, not saying a word. Deep Phu Duong thought she was angry, so he spoke up in peace. Comforted, "That old man doesn't know anything. He only talks nonsense. Don't take it to heart." "I don't take it to heart." Chu Tin Nu replied, paused for a moment, then said in a low voice, "You shouldn't care about other people's words about marriage. What's important is yourself." Deep Phu Duong was stunned on the spot by saying that. Could it be that she was implying something? Chu Tin Nu suddenly realized that she had said something wrong and changed the subject. "That's right, Brother Phu Duong. Aren't ghosts just illusory things? Their tongues must also be corrupt things?" "Illusory ghosts, how can they be used?" Deep Phu Duong explained. "Illusory ghosts are said by the positive world. They are not objects in the positive world, so they can manifest illusory images. In the underworld, they are real entities. Only ghosts stay in the positive world. Their cultivation level up, slowly adapt to the positive energy. Their bodies gradually materialize to be able to hold things, walk and sit. But if they want to go through the wall to enter a retreat, it's a bit difficult." "Absurd. Wow. You can still hold your hand and walk like a human. Put it like that. Are ghosts more powerful than zombies and other species?" Chu Tin Nu looked at him intently, smiled, and said, "Brother Duong, I think you are very great, not because you have the ability to exterminate ghosts and demons, but because you can sacrifice to save people. Like today you saved that mother and child, thanks to which they lived. You're really, really good." Deep Phu Duong touched his hair and pretended to say, "It's not like that. Society assigns it just like that." Chu Tin Nu laughed. It was past noon when the two returned to the tourist village. Both were hungry, so they went back to the table to eat. While eating, Deep Phu Duong recalled the village chief's story about that Baba temple. Based on the old man's words, at first everyone should have followed each step correctly. The old demon chose his grandchild as a sacrifice, used the corpse gas to feed him for 3 months. After the seal disappeared, the corpse gas would break and come out. And when the seal was broken, what happened to the 7th demon that he did not pay attention to the child? Deep Phu Duong calculated a bit. From the time Chu Fuang was 3 months pregnant until now, it has been 8 months, which means that 5 months have passed in the middle. In other words, the seal was broken. In 5 months. Before, he quickly asked Chu Tin Nu, "When did Truong and his people break the statue?" Chu Tin Nu tilted his head to think and replied, "I don't really know. I just heard him say it was during the release time. According to my calculations, it was probably 3 or 4 months ago." "Brother Phu Duong, it wasn't because they broke the statue that 7 Ba Ba was released. Deep Phu Duong shook his head. The seal was destroyed 5 months ago. They came to smash the statue just to anger the old demon, and were teased to death. If I guess correctly, that old Vong was also part of the statue-breaking team before, but the old demon's harassment had nothing to do with them. It was just because the seal was opened early. This lady will be a demon spirit. As long as it's not a demon fairy, that's fine. Chu Tin Nu blinked and asked, "What is a demon fairy? What is a demon spirit?" Deep Phu Duong put his chopsticks on the table and explained, "A demon spirit can overcome 1,000 years of tribulation to become a fairy, ascend to the heavenly position, be worshipped by people, enjoy incense lamps in one place. Even the local government can't control it. The two are not much different in terms of cultivation. Only their titles are different. Until today, the 7 grandmothers still need to refine the killing corpse. Then it can be seen that it has not passed through the tribulation. If you want to kill it, you don't need to go through Qin Kuangvang's permission, saving a lot of trouble." Chu Tin Nu muttered, "Who is Qin Kuangvang? What do you not understand? You are just a mortal. Why do you know so much? It's not beneficial." Chu Tin Nu nodded. The head agreed, asking, "So what should we do now?" Deep Phu Duong thought for a long time, as if there was no good solution. "Tomorrow I'll go down to the well and see." I remember you said now is not the time to go down." Chu Tin Nu worried. "What if Mrs. Seven sneaks up on me behind your back? That's why we have to be prepared. Tomorrow I'll call senior brother Quach to go. Follow, protect you." Deep Phu Duong suddenly missed Nu Lan Nok very much. If he had her to protect him, he would be 100% assured. Old Quach's strength was still far behind. It's just that time was tight. The clues were blocked. He couldn't sit still and do nothing. In case that old demon broke through the seal formation and ran from the temple, then it would be a big trouble. After dinner, Chu Tin Nu hired him. 2 rooms. The two went in to rest. Deep Phu Duong lay on the bed playing Snake, and soon fell asleep. Woke up when it was dim. Deep Phu Duong found Chu Tin Nu's room, knocked on the door. No one opened. He was about to make a phone call when Chu Tin Nu came from outside, explaining that he had just come to the construction site to help General Lai deal with the aftermath of the 2 deaths. Everything had been arranged. Finished. One person paid 900,000. The relatives did not cause trouble. Everyone is waiting for the police to investigate the results. Chu Tin Nu briefly told. Deep Phu Duong sighed and said, "When I come back, I will tell Ta Vu Tin to find an excuse." Deep Phu Duong said, "Even though it is wrong to deceive people, I have no choice but to tell them that their family member is possessed by demons. **T. That's even more unbelievable." Chu Tin Nu nodded. "I understand this. What should we do now?" "Go to the mountain, look for ghosts." Chu Tin Nu was surprised for a moment, then said, "I'll go too." "It's night. You're going to the cemetery. Aren't you afraid?" "I'm here. I'm not afraid." Chu Tin Nu answered frankly. "Here it's scary to be alone in a room." Deep Phu Duong touched his nose. This person was addicted to his breath or something. After going out the door, the two of them followed the direction provided by the village chief and walked towards the cemetery. Deep Phu Duong gave Chu Tin Nu a bottle of that Tin Nu. "Spray it on your eyes, and you can see ghosts. I'll help you find it later." Chu Tin Nu sprayed it on his eyes and said sadly, I remember the first time I met a ghost, it seemed like it sprayed this stuff on my eyes. Why do I spray it again?" In places where the negative energy is heavy, ordinary ghosts will also appear, and in places where the negative energy is lower, only ghosts and resentful spirits can see it. We don't have high requirements. We just need to find a demon. The two of them climbed up the mountainside and saw the cemetery in front, a large tomb standing firmly on the flat ground below. In the darkness, the tomb was illuminated by white moonlight, sometimes hidden and sometimes visible, looking extremely creepy. There were also 2 other tombs with white flags on top. The wind blew, the flags whirred and vibrated. This chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. Even though Chu Tin Nu said he wasn't afraid, his heart was still a little scared, hugging Deep Phu Duong's arm, his body sticking close to his body. Her body emitted a faint, seductive scent. Deep Phu Duong raised his nose and sniffed, enjoying it. But to avoid the bad feeling arising in his heart, he still walked to the left and ran. To the right, then sat down, looked around, then stood up, walked around like that for a while, and discovered that although there were many graves, there was not a single ghost. He had no choice but to lead Chu Tin Nu into the center, looking for ghosts around. "Fu Duong, brother, are there ghosts there?" Chu Tin Nu pulled his arm, holding it tighter. Ghosts are not easy to find. Otherwise the world would be in chaos. The two searched for a long time, but could not find a single ghost. Deep Fu Duong reluctantly climbed up the mountain, found a small cliff to sit down. Up here, if there was a ghost passing by, you could definitely see it. Waited half an hour, and still no ghosts. Deep Fu Duong felt discouraged, lay on the rock, and fell asleep. Suddenly Chu Tin Nu patted his shoulder and called out in a low voice, "Brother Fu Duong, are those people ghosts?" Deep Fu Duong woke up when he heard that. Looking in the direction of Chu Tin Nu's finger, he saw two men and a woman walking along the mountain path, waiting for them to approach the top of the mountain. Deep Fu Duong carefully assessed. These three people were all about 20 years old, wearing climbing clothes. Mountain, carrying a bag. The woman also held a climbing stick. The three of them walked and laughed. The three reached the top of the mountain, stopped to rest, then took out water and food from their backpacks. One of them discovered the two of Deep Fu Duong, so he greeted them very friendlily, smiled, and said, "Dear friend, we were destined to meet here at night. Aren't you afraid of encountering ghosts?" One of his words made Chu Tin Nu feel at ease. If they were ghosts, they wouldn't ask if others were afraid of ghosts. Deep Fu Duong smiled and asked back, "What are you guys here for?" "Ah, we are school students." Song Lai, "We're on vacation, so we're going on a road trip." The male student cheerfully introduced himself. "I'm Lam Tan. What's your best friend's name?" "I'd call Mr. Vong." Chu Tin Nu burst out laughing. Lam Tan smiled and said, "Your girlfriend is so beautiful. You are very lucky." Deep Fu Duong said, "Your girlfriend is also beautiful." Lam Tan turned his head and glanced at the girlfriend next to him, smiling and saying, "This is that kid's girlfriend. I'm not that lucky." Lam Tan turned around and called his two friends over, introducing Duong Van Phi and Tong Tu Tien. They are a couple. The three people sat down to share food and drinks. Lam Tan also very politely gave 2 boxes to Deep Fu Duong. Meeting each other is fate. "You guys should eat too." "Thank you, I'm full." Chu Tin Nu refused. Deep Fu Duong received the food box and looked at it. The three people ate while opening the map and pointing, happily discussing the purpose of the trip. Deep Fu Duong just sat quietly and looked at the three people. After they finished resting, they stood up and said goodbye, heading towards the other mountain peak. "I wish I could be like that." Chu Tin Nu looked at the three people's backs and said, "Brother Fu Duong, when we have a chance, let's organize a trip like that. What do you think?" Deep Fu Duong smiled. "Going on a trip is possible, but you absolutely cannot wish to be like them." Chu Tin Nu was bewildered. "Why?" "Because they are ghosts." "Ah, why? Like that again." Chu Tin Nu immediately cried out. Deep Fu Duong asked Chu Tin Nu, "What month is it now?" "It's almost July, so what?" Deep Fu Duong pointed to 3 people who had not yet gone far and said, "Look at what clothes they are wearing." Chu Tin Nu glanced at the 3 of them. His body immediately felt like it had touched electricity, trembling slightly. "Oh my God, they are wearing clothes. Fur." The more real the story is, the more it makes people care less, because few people who just meet someone pay attention to what people wear, suitable for the weather or not. The reason they wear that clothes is because they die in winter. Deep Fu Duong turned over the food box they had just given to Chu Tin like watching. "Look at the date. December 28th, 2013. 3 years ago." Not waiting for her to finish speaking, the box disappeared. This is an idea they imagined, which does not exist in the real world. As soon as they went far, the idea of losing control immediately disappeared. Chu Tin Nu was shocked to hear it, and after a while, he grabbed Deep Fu's arm. Duong excitedly said, "Oh, I remember. That winter, a few students went on a trip to this area and ended up falling off a cliff and falling to their deaths. It seemed like 2 men and a woman. At that time, the government sent a helicopter to rescue them and found their bodies on the cliff. Oh my God, how could this be possible? Brother Duong, didn't you say that, after death, people will know everything? What? Deep Fu Duong explained. This is not absolute. There are many people whose ghosts are still confused after death, not knowing that they are dead. There are people who are conscious and enter the underworld. There are also people who are still unconscious and need ghosts to catch them. But these people are really strange. They have been dead for 2 years, but ghosts still haven't come to capture them. There must be something special. Chu Tin Nu said. So what should we do now? If we meet, of course we have to follow them and tell them to go down to the underworld to report. Let's go. Having finished speaking, he immediately chased after the 3 people. Chu Tin Nu also ran after him, asking, "The Duong brother, you still don't understand. They keep going straight down like that. Where are they going? Could it be that after 2 years of walking they are still not awake? Their ghosts influence each other. They can only remember the time before death. This is a kind of resentment. Once they reach the point of death, they will immediately die." Fell into a state of chaos, then started again, just like that without stopping. Chu Tin Nu opened his mouth wide, unable to bear to say. It's too pitiful. The 2 increased their pace to chase the 3 ghosts. Deep Fu Duong cried out. You 3. Wait a minute. Let's go together. Where do you want to go? Lam Ton asked. Looking for someone. Deep Fu Duong replied. Wild mountains and forests. Who do you want to find? Deep Fu Duong thought for a moment. If they told the truth frankly, they might not be able to accept it, causing resentment, entering a crazy state. That wouldn't be good. After all, they have been dead for too long, and the accumulated resentment is just that they don't know it, so they don't explode. In the event of an outbreak, they will likely turn directly into a resentful spirit. Wait a minute, I'll tell you a ghost story. As soon as Tong Qiu Tian heard it, she immediately leaned into her boyfriend Duong Van Phi's arm, shook her head, and said nervously, I don't like to listen. It's very dark. I'm scared. Deep Fu Duong and Chu Tin Nu glanced at each other. Their faces helpless. Ghosts are still alive. Afraid of ghost stories. If this story is rumored, it will definitely become funny. What's the story, tell me? The 2 men showed interest and asked happily. Deep Fu Dong rearranged his language and said, It's like this. 3 years ago, 3 university students like you went on a field trip to explore, but something unexpected happened. All 3 fell down the cliff to their deaths, turning into ghosts, but there was no ghost sent to tell them the truth. They still thought they were alive, running back and forth every day to continue their journey. It's not yet completed. Now I want to find them and tell them the truth, but I'm afraid they won't believe. Deep Fu Duong glanced at the 3 people and asked, Can you guys help me think of a way? How can I make them believe? P/S. Be careful. Guys, remember to pay attention when going on a trip or picnic tomorrow. Don't let anyone give you anything. Smiley face. When you meet a strange person, remember to softly ask, Are you a ghost? Smiley face. Chapter 108. The Devil's Tongue. Asterisk. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. The 3 looked at each other. Yang Yunfei said, That ghost story isn't scary at all. Yi Xiaoyang said, This isn't a story, this is the truth. I'm very worried about this. Lin Cheng laughed heartily. My friend, don't joke around. There are no ghosts in this world, I don't believe it. Song Xiaotian said, Ghosts might exist, but his story is clearly a lie. Breaking free from his hesitation, Yi Xiaoyang looked at her and asked, Even if you assume it's true, what should I do now? Song Xiaotian tilted her head in thought and said, It's simple. You prove it to them. As long as you provide evidence, they definitely won't be able to disbelieve you. What if they can't accept it? Song Xiaotian stroked her hand. If it's really like that, then what's there to be unable to accept? The dead become ghosts, but the ghost is still the same person. At most, they'll just be reincarnated. Yi Xiaoyang smirked. That's exactly what I want. That being said, 3 of you, don't be afraid. Life and death, reincarnation, the great Tao of heaven and earth. I am a Maoshan heavenly master, capable of guiding you 3 to the underworld. The 3 looked at each other, instantly terrified. Lin Cheng frowned, dissatisfied, and said, Friend, don't joke like that. Just tell your story. Why drag us into it? Isn't this cursing us? Chapter 109. The Female Ghost Beneath the Tree Spirit. Asterisk. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Chu Jingru was stunned, anxiously looking left and right, asking, "Is there a ghost?" "It's not a ghost. Come here." Yi Xiaoyang took her hand and walked to a spot 500 meters away from the pagoda tree, casually found a rock, and instructed, "Sit here. Don't sit over there. It's a tree spirit." "A tree spirit." Chu Jingru's eyes widened. "What is a tree demon?" "It's a tree that has become a demon. You've encountered one before. Everything can become a demon, not just animals, but plants and insects too. However, plants, unless they reach the level of a demon spirit, won't reveal their true form, making them relatively easy to deal with." Chu Jingru turned to look. Aside from its enormous size, the pagoda tree seemed unremarkable. She couldn't help but wonder, "It's just a tree. How could it become a spirit?" Yi Xiaoyang said, "This tree grows right at the Yin Wheel eye of the mountain, which is the place that absorbs Yin energy. Look at the many graves on either side. It absorbs the corpse energy of the dead, cultivating through the Yin Wheel eye. I don't know how many years it's been cultivating, but its cultivation level must be quite high. I just checked this place and sensed intense demonic and corpse energy. The demonic energy comes from that tree, and the corpse energy might be from the graves beneath. Let's wait here first. Wait for that female demon to appear, then we'll figure out what to do." Hearing this, Chu Jingru felt frightened and quickly hugged Yi Xiaoyang, clinging tightly to him. "Are you scared?" A little scared." Chu Jingru, Chapter 110, The Ground of the Corpse. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Suddenly, countless branches and leaves sprouted from the pagoda tree, binding her limbs. Branch after branch enveloped her until she was completely out of sight. After a few minutes, the branches and leaves slowly dispersed, and the girl had vanished along with the rope. Everything returned to how it was before. The illusion ended, as if nothing had ever happened. "So that's how she died." Yi Xiaoyang frowned, recalling the girl's actions just now. She reached into her pocket and pulled out something resembling a coin-shaped throwing dart. 3 coins shaped like the Chinese character Fing, Pin, were stuck together. This was a common magical artifact used by folk sorcerers. The 3 coins combined increased their magical power, and with the added edge of a 4-winged throwing dart, it could also be used as a self-defense weapon. If he wasn't mistaken, then the girl must have been a sorcerer? Why did she die at the hands of the tree demon? Only by finding her body and soul could he understand these questions. Yi Xiaoyang drew out his sweeping wood sword and walked towards the old tree. After about 20 meters, the locust tree suddenly trembled, then stopped slightly, remaining motionless. "What just happened?" Chu Jingru asked tremblingly, suddenly feeling a tightness in her ankle as if something had grabbed it. Looking down, she saw a plump, pale arm reaching up from the ground and grasping her ankle. Chu Jingru screamed in fear. Yi Xiaoyang severed the arm below with a single sword strike, black blood gushing out, and the arm immediately retreated into the ground, leaving only a small gap. Chapter 111. There's a person in the tree. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang, facing danger, remained calm. He bit his tongue and spat a mouthful of blood at the earth corpses beside him. The earth corpses immediately cried out and retreated. With his right hand freed, Yi Xiaoyang immediately swung his sword to free his left hand, pushing back even more earth corpses. Having managed to get his upper body back up, Yi Xiaoyang took a pile of copper beans from his side and threw them at the earth corpses. Those earth corpses with low cultivation levels were instantly struck by the copper beans, groaning and retreating back into the ground. As soon as Yi Xiaoyang stood up, the giant earth corpse lunged at him again. Earlier, it saw him being attacked by its friends and didn't approach. Now that the others had fled, it finally had its chance. It grabbed Yi Xiaoyang by the neck with both hands, pinned him to the ground, and opened its huge mouth close to his face. Yi Xiaoyang tilted his head to dodge, plunging the Tao Mok sword into the earth zombie's body, feeling the pungent, foul-smelling fluid. But this earth zombie was incredibly strong. It only twitched slightly before lunging at him again. Damn, its resistance is unbelievable. Seeing he was about to be bitten, Yi Xiaoyang, in a desperate situation, came up with a devious solution. He proactively lowered his head to the Earth Zombie's neck. The Earth Zombie's body was enormous, and its neck was long and wide. Yi Xiaoyang's head blocked its chin and collarbone, preventing it from moving its neck. The prey was right under its mouth, yet it couldn't bite. This feeling enraged the Earth Zombie, making it want to roar in anger. However, Yi Xiaoyang's situation wasn't much better. The Earth Zombie's body was covered in a sticky, viscous fluid, and a mass of excess skin rubbed against his face, tickling him and feeling cold and soft, making him nauseous and almost throwing up. Regaining his composure, Yi Xiaoyang realized the Earth Zombie was controlled by tree roots. Chapter 112. Drinking Demon Blood. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang hurriedly picked up the still-burning torch from the ground and approached the cocoon. The silk threads, upon contact with the fire, immediately melted, revealing a hole from which a blast of cold air rushed out. Yi Xiaoyang waved his hand to ward off the air, then looked closely. Inside were a pair of slender, smooth, white legs, definitely those of a woman. After the cocoon had completely melted, Yi Xiaoyang took a deep breath of cold air. Inside lay a girl in a shirt and shorts, with short, light blonde hair and a delicate, lifelike appearance. "Oh, isn't this the girl who hanged herself earlier?" Chu Jingru's voice rang out from behind. Yi Xiaoyang immediately realized, observing the girl's clothes. It was indeed the same girl from before. No wonder her hallucination of death appeared under the tree. It turned out the corpse was inside the tree trunk. "Why is this girl still alive?" Chu Jingru asked in surprise. Just as she finished speaking, the girl frowned slightly and slowly opened her eyes. Chu Jingru recoiled in fear. "Don't tell me it's a fake corpse?" Yi Xiaoyang knew it wasn't a fake corpse, but the scene before him was so bizarre that he couldn't quite understand it. He just stood aside, silently watching and waiting. After a while, the girl fully opened her eyes, her gaze slowly focusing on Yi Xiaoyang. Chapter 113. The Arctic Ice Silkworm. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Leaving the village chief's house and returning to the tourist village, it was late at night. Yi Xiaoyang was exhausted both mentally and physically. He was also injured, and thinking about having to question that girl tomorrow, he didn't want to do anything, only wanting to quickly climb into bed and sleep. After a long, natural sleep, Yi Xiaoyang felt extremely comfortable. He picked up his mobile phone and looked at the screen, 10 o'clock in the morning. He quickly got out of bed, brushed his teeth, washed his face, put on decent clothes, and went into the living room. Chu Jingru had 2 luxurious rooms, one of which served as a living room. A beautiful woman in a black Western-style suit was sitting at the tea table, smiling at him. "Mr. Yi, you're awake." Yi Xiaoyang looked around, unsure who she was, and was about to ask when the woman introduced herself. "I'm the PR manager of the mainland mountain villa. Last night, Miss Chu entrusted me to bring you some clothes today. Since you weren't awake yet, I waited here." After saying that, she took a set of clothes from the sofa and handed them to Yi Xiaoyang. "I didn't know your exact size, so I bought 3 different sizes. Try them on." Yi Xiaoyang returned to his bedroom, tried them on, and found one that fit him well. It was just an ordinary outfit, an Adidas shirt. He looked in the mirror for a while, finally understanding what Xiaoma meant by real versus fake at the market. Although they looked similar when he wore them, well, the real thing was different. Yi Xiaoyang returned the remaining 2 sets of clothes to the beautiful woman, thanked her, and asked, "Where is Xiaoru?" "She's in her room." "Mr. Yi, please have breakfast," the sweet-talking beauty said, then stood up and walked to the sofa, opened the bag, took out a lunchbox, and placed it on the table. Inside the lunchbox was a steamer basket of buns. Chapter 114. Even Xiaoyang fell into the trap. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang secretly took a deep breath. No wonder she survived. The Arctic ice silkworm is born in the far north of the demon realm. It is rumored that in ancient times, it was brought to the human world by a great Miao immortal shaman. There was no way to preserve it. Only by cultivating it into an ancient insect could it survive. The Arctic ice silkworm spins silk into a cocoon, which can cut off all demonic energy, let alone a tree demon with hundreds of years of cultivation. Even a demon spirit couldn't do anything to it. However, due to conflicting attributes, the ice silkworm silk is most sensitive to fire. It melts as soon as it is exposed to fire. As far as I know, the Arctic ice silkworm is very rare, revered as a sacred object by Maoshan shamans, and is also a token of inheritance from the great immortal shaman. So you must be from the great immortal shaman family? Yi Xiaoyang blinked at her and asked. Tan Xiaoyi's eyes flashed, and she slightly bowed her head, saying, I admit I'm from the great witch immortal family. I can only say that much. I'm sorry, but I can't say anything else. It's a family secret. I'm sorry, even if you're my savior. Yi Xiaoyang nodded. Understood. I won't ask. But I'm very puzzled. If your identity is so special, where were your family members when something unfortunate happened? Tan Xiaoyi smiled bitterly. I'm sorry, this also involves my family's secret. I can't answer. Yi Xiaoyang shrugged. Okay, then tell me a little about that ghost. It's probably not related to your family's secret, right? A hint of fear flickered in Tan Xiaoyi's eyes as she mumbled. That ghost was terrifying. Its face was a skull, and its brain was stuffed with something like straw. It wore a black cloak. Its upper body was covered in scales, resembling a blood fox demon, while its lower body had many tentacles like a tree demon. Asterisk, this chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. Chuma quickly brought his backpack over. Deep Fu Duong, while vomiting, put his hand into his bag to take out a box of sewing needles. When he pressed it lightly, the lid of the box flew off, and inside contained a bunch of uneven sewing needles. Deep Fu Duong picked up a medium-sized needle, picked it up with his right finger, and stabbed it in 3 places on his left wrist 3 times. Then let go of the needle, took out another small needle to stab his left finger. The middle finger of his right hand was slightly bent. From the puncture wound on his left arm, a stream of black blood flowed out. Half a minute later, the black blood slowly diluted into red blood. Paper. Chuma quickly took one. The piece of paper was given to Deep Fu Duong. After wiping his mouth, he turned around and lay face down on the bed, panting and gasping for air, saying, Damn, I've been trapped. What trap? Chuma was stunned. Aren't you drinking a lot of wine? Why are you drinking too much wine? There's a problem with the wine bottle. There's a worm inside. Deep Fu Duong said faintly. He was recalling the incident where Tranvu unreasonably invited him to eat, kindly encouraged him to drink Bok Hoa wine. This thing he initially felt was something unusual. Unfortunately, he thought he was kind, completely defenseless. Impossible, Ma exclaimed in horror. He and I also drank alcohol. Why weren't we hurt? You're so stupid. There's no problem with the wine. The problem is that glass. Bok Hoa liquor is just something that hides the ancient worm's aura, making it impossible for me to detect it. Ma was stunned for a while, then said, He has no hatred or resentment towards you. Why would he want to harm you? You. How do I know? Give me my cell phone. Ma gave him the cell phone. Deep Fu Duong originally intended to call Chu Tin Nu and tell Damn Tu Tuesday to come help. She is a member of the Dai Vu Tian family. She must be able to deal with ancient magic. Looking for her now is the right person. As a result, Chu Tin Nu turned off the phone. Damn Tu Tuesday, also without a cell phone. Deep Fu Duong thought for a while and realized that he didn't know anyone. So he could only find Chu Tin Nu. And if he went to her company to ask in case he couldn't find it, it would be a waste of time, which would be very troublesome. I only temporarily stopped the goo worm's actions, like anesthetizing it. If it woke up and disturbed something in my body, I'm not sure I could suppress it. Thinking about it. After thinking about it, I still called Mr. Quatched. As soon as he picked up the phone, Deep Fu Duong immediately said, Senior brother, prepare some things for me. Bring Ong Gao Tan Hon 2, 1. Over here, the faster the better. Then he panted and continued. 8 kilos of soybeans, 3 kilos of red apples, 5 kilos of bean residue, a few pots and coin powder. 1. Gao Tan Hon 2. Round-shaped pills, stewed. Old Quach was originally from the south to the north, very knowledgeable. When he heard Deep Fu Duong mention those drugs, he immediately understood, remained silent, and asked in a low voice, Someone got infected with worms. Huh. It's you who's involved. Don't ask anymore. Bring it here quickly. Hang up the phone. Deep Phu Duong closed his eyes and lay on the bed. Chuma did not dare to disturb him, just sat next to him and waited anxiously. Half an hour later, Old Quach's heart was on fire as he ran over. As soon as he entered the bedroom, he saw Deep Phu Duong's face yellow. Between his eyebrows there was a condensed blue-black aura. Surprised, he quickly checked his pulse. Of Deep Phu Duong, his face darkened. He exclaimed in fear, "It's not enough. It's really a goo worm." He pulled Deep Phu Duong's eyelids up, only to see the outside of his eyeball covered by a layer of white silk like a cocoon. His heart suddenly sank. He quickly opened his mouth. The tip of his tongue had turned black. In the middle was a waxy yellow line. Ancient silkworm needle. Old Quach frowned and looked at Deep Phu Duong's weak expression, worriedly saying, "One of the 3 great ancient techniques of Miao Quang. It's very difficult to do." Chu Ma was bewildered when he heard it, muttering, "Chu Deep has celestial master blood. Is there anything wrong with him?" Because he has celestial master blood, he temporarily restrained the goo worms. If he were a normal person, he would have been dead and alive. The goo worms are caused by humans. Refining is even more powerful than poisonous demons or poisonous corpses. After speaking, Old Quach took out a bag of green medicinal pills that looked like quail eggs and handed them to Deep Phu Duong. Suddenly, a strange smell filled the room. "I just finished refining it based on the materials you told me. However, this pill can only temporarily suppress the ancient worms. If you want to completely eradicate them, you must use Maoshan's 18 divine needles. Unfortunately, I don't know that technique," Old Quach said miserably. "Young junior brother probably knows how to use it. It's just that there are some acupuncture points you can't do yourself." Deep Phu Duong said, "It's easy. Let me teach you, then show you how to do it." Old Quach hesitantly touched the back of his head. "It doesn't seem to fit the sect's rules. Little junior brother, I'm an outer sect disciple. The 18 divine needles are an inner sect medical technique." Still before he could finish speaking, Deep Phu Duong waved his hand and said, "Don't care about the sect rules. Sooner or later, I will be the Maoshan sect master. Your words are the sect rules. If you don't take action anymore, you will die. At that time, see if Tan Van Tu will treat you well." Old Quach raised his hand to wipe his sweat, mentioning that the sect rules were very important, but the life of his younger brother was still more important. He immediately nodded and said, "Little junior brother, you tell me." Deep Phu Duong began to briefly explain how to perform and the content of the 18 divine needles. Old Quach originally had the basic Maoshan medical technique. After listening, he understood more than half of it, and with Deep Phu Duong's instructions, everything was no problem. Deep Phu Duong asked Hugh Ma to help him go to the living room, find an open space, and start to see ********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** cross-legged on the ground, gave the box of needles to Mr. Quach, swallowed the pill, and told Mr. Quach to do it immediately. Acupuncture number 1. Trung Tho, Bok Hoi Acupuncture Point. Deep Phu Duong's voice rang out. Old Quach took out the corresponding needle and inserted it into Deep Phu Duong's head. A thick stream of black blood slowly flowed down. Prick number 2. Tam Te, Nan Trung. Needle number 3. Ni Tho, Tai Duong. Old Quach followed Deep Phu Duong's instructions and inserted 18 different needles alternating at acupuncture points on the body. Then mixed a talisman into water, spraying it on acupuncture points in order to help penetrate into his body. Deep Phu Duong immediately mobilized the energy to gather at the goo worm's location, carrying out an attack. He clearly felt that there was a worm struggling in his stomach, constantly spitting out poison, tearing his internal organs, causing pain to the point that his whole body trembled. Black blood continuously flowed from the needles, more and more, until Deep Phu Duong's whole body looked like a bloody person. The situation it was extremely terrifying, making everyone startled. Q Ma stood beside him, anxiously observing, not even daring to breathe. When the last needle pierced Deep Phu Duong's body, his body suddenly shook violently. His mouth let out a pitiful cry, and he fell limply backwards. Old Quach quickly ran to help him to prevent him from lying on the ground. The needles pierced his skin. That would be big trouble. Quick, come and help me. Old Quach commanded Tu Ma to help Deep Phu Duong into the bathroom. Old Quach helped him sit down on the ground. Tu Ma turned on the shower, mixed it into warm water, and washed all the black blood on Deep Phu Duong's body. After his body was clean of black blood, Old Quach carefully pulled out the needle and put it in the box, helping Deep Phu Duong lie on the bed. 10 minutes later, Deep Phu Duong gently opened his eyes. The membrane in the back of his eyes had disappeared, returning to normal. What's wrong? Old Quach and Tu Ma asked in unison. The goo insect is dead, Deep Phu Duong said, his eyebrows wrinkled. But I can feel that there is something else in my body besides the goo worm. When the goo worm dissolved, it also came out. I don't know what it is. While speaking, the cell phone suddenly rang. Tu Ma ran over to see, shouting loudly. Chu Tin Nu is calling. Deep Phu Duong received the cell phone, turned it on. Chu Tin Nu asked, "You are watching with Tu Tuesday movie. It's about to get to the dramatic part. Why are you looking for me?" Deep Phu Duong rolled his eyes and replied, "Just keep watching the movie. I almost died. It's okay now." Chu Tin Nu asked in shock, "What happened?" "Bao Damn Tu Tuesday," answered the phone. Damn Tu Tuesday picked up the phone. Deep Phu Duong immediately recounted everything, including what happened. "How I feel now, ask her why." After hearing this, Damn Tu Tuesday cried out loudly, "That is human blood goo." 2. Human blood goo. Goo worms are equal to human blood.p/s. Go to chapter currently. Tan Tu wrote a side story. Tu Ma meets the devil, but he couldn't translate it because he didn't have time. If you want to see it, please wait a little longer, smiley face. Asterisk, this chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. As soon as Deep Phu Duong heard that the problem was serious, he quickly asked, "What is human blood goo? Where are you? Let's meet and talk." Tu Nu. "You know, tell her to take you to me." Hang up the phone. Deep Phu Duong told Tu Ma to go downstairs and wait for them. 1 moment later, Tu Ma led Chu Tin Nu and Damn Tu Tuesday to the room. Chu Tin Nu was extremely excited, urgently asked Deep Phu Duong, confirmed that he had no problem for the time being, then breathed a sigh of relief. Damn Tu Tuesday cut his finger, used his blood to draw a very strange symbol on Deep Phu Duong's left chest. His thumb pressed on his heart. His mouth mumbled a series of incomprehensible language. Deep Phu Duong guessed it might be meow language. Deep Phu Duong quickly, I felt something flowing out of my body. I lowered my head and looked back. A drop of black blood had just penetrated the strange symbol and fell out. Damn Tu Tuesday let go, pulled out a few strands of hair and dipped them in a drop of black blood, then held it in the palm of his right hand, recited a series of incantations. Let go. The hair automatically burned, emitting a blue flame. When the hair strands were burned, a black smoke came out from it 3 meters high, condensed in the air without dissipating, slowly forming a butterfly shape. Although Deep Phu Duong did not understand clearly, he also knew that the butterfly was one of the butterflies, the totems of the Miao people. In addition to the butterfly, there are also maple trees and bulls. Together they are called the 3 great totems. Damn Tu Tuesday waved his hand. The smoke butterfly image was immediately dispelled, frowned, looked at Deep Phu Duong with an extremely solemn expression. "That's right. That is human blood ancient." Suddenly, everyone looked at her. Deep Phu Duong nodded, signaling her to continue. Damn Tu Tuesday sighed and said, "Human blood goo is extremely scary. It is the ancient worm that goo masters use their blood to feed, forming human blood essence. When it enters the host's body, the ancient worm will be destroyed. Human blood essence spreads throughout the body, grows in the blood, slowly becoming an ancient spirit. The host it parasitizes will definitely die." Speaking of this, a look of surprise appeared in her eyes. However, this type of ancient magic is extremely difficult to practice. If you are not careful, the goo worm will rely on the goo master's blood essence to bite its owner. Speaking of which, in fact, only people from my Dai Vutian family have the ability to practice. Deep Phu Duong said in shock. "It's not such a coincidence. I just saved you, and immediately someone from your family appeared. Is it because I got infected with the ancient worm to save you?" Damn Tu Tuesday shook his head. "I don't know. The Dai Vutian family. Only a few people left, and hundreds of years ago banned the practice of cruel and evil magic like black magic. I don't know those wizards at all. I also don't know what happened. Deep Fu Duong believes that she is not lying. It's just that there must be some other plot behind this. It can't be a coincidence like that. So, just after saving the white wizard of the Dai Vu Tian family, a black wizard immediately condescended to me. The point is, I have never known anyone who is the wizard Mu Kuang, let alone offended anyone like that. However, the most important issue right now is not investigating the conspiracy, but worrying about my own safety. Deep Fu Duong looked at Damn Tu Tuesday and said, "Do you have any way to solve that blood goo?" Damn Tu Tuesday frowned and shook his head, saying, "I can break all ancient techniques. Only human blood goo is cultivated by the person using his own blood essence. I can only suppress it. I cannot solve it. The only antidote is the blood of the person raising the ancient worm." Deep Fu Duong, shrugging his shoulders, "That's it. If someone had deliberately taken down my neck, of course there would be no way they would give me the antidote. The sea of people is vast. If the other person wants to hide, where can I go to find him?" Thinking so, he continued to ask, "How do you suppress? How long can you suppress?" Damn Tu Tuesday did not answer, held Deep Fu Duong's hands, turned his left arm up, and said, "Everyone look okay." Everyone immediately observed. On Deep Fu Duong's arm suddenly a dark red blood line more than a meter long was slowly emerging. "What is this?" Chu Tin Nu grabbed Deep Fu Duong's arm, sighed and asked. "Human blood essence starts from the wrist, then reproduces towards the heart. Once the two blood lines in the veins converge, the person will die, cannot be saved." Chu Tin Nu was immediately stunned when he heard this. The corners of his eyes suddenly became wet. Deep Fu Duong's heart moved slightly, comforting. "Don't cry, I haven't seen it yet. Die. Listen to Tu Tuesday and finish." Damn Tu Tuesday wanted to remind him a few words, but at this moment he was not in the mood to continue, so he could only say, "Human blood essence grows forward in the left and right arms. In total it will break through 7 acupuncture points. Each time it breaks through, it will cause extreme damage and pain to the body. Moreover, the growth rate of human blood essence reduced the damage to a minimum. Originally, he only had 1 month to live, but now he will maintain his life for about 2 months. Chu Tin Nu felt very confused, muttering, "What's the difference?" "Of course it's different," Deep Fu Duong said. "In these 2 months you can look for the ancient person. As long as you find him, you will have a chance to survive. But in case that person escapes, the sea of people is vast. Where do you know where to look?" Deep Fu Duong stroked his hand. "Then it's okay. It's just, I didn't offend the ancient master. He dared to use his precious blood to kill my neck. It must have a purpose. I didn't look for him. He will also come to look for you." After hearing this, everyone thought it made sense and felt a little reassured that this time. Chuma suddenly said a very relevant sentence. "Don't tell me Tran Vu used ancient magic. I've never seen him use it before." Deep Fu Duong glared. "What ancient magic does he know? It's just a pawn for people to control, but you can still find him to control it." Investigation. After speaking, Deep Fu Duong took out his cell phone and dialed Ta Vu Tin's number. As soon as the phone was transferred, Ta Vu Tin interrupted and said, "Scoundrel, I'm looking for you. The murder case in the mountainous continent has been assigned to me in charge. What do you plan to do?" "Without talking about that, first you help me investigate the whereabouts and date of birth of a person." Ta Vu Tin was extremely shocked. Surprised, immediately said, "Who?" Deep Fu Duong said it was Tran Vu. Ta Vu Tin remembered and asked, "What is he that you want to investigate his information?" "It's not convenient to say clearly on the phone." "I must explain clearly. My police department is not owned by me. How can I arbitrarily mobilize staff and resources to investigate?" Deep Fu Duong was angry. "Listen here, if you don't find him, I will definitely die. I don't have time to joke with you." The other end was silent for a moment. Then Ta Vu Tin excitedly said, "Where are you? I came to see you." While waiting for Ta Vu Tin, Damn Tu Tuesday went to refine the medicine to suppress human blood goo and needed a quiet space. Deep Fu Duong also understood that the process of magician Mu Kuang was extremely secret. He did not want others to see it, so he told Tuma to take her to the next bedroom. 5 minutes later, Damn Tu Tuesday came out. carrying a medicinal pill that looked like red beans, and gave it to Deep Phu Duong. Deep Phu Duong took it, immediately felt very cold, and asked, "Is this the blood of Bang Tam?" Bang Tam's blood is very little, mainly my saliva. Dam Tu Tuesday blushed and had difficulty speaking. Deep Phu Duong immediately blushed. Beautiful woman's saliva. He did not mind getting dirty, but it seemed like this was an indirect kiss in the legend. Deep Phu Duong immediately swallowed the medicinal pill, feeling an ice-cold cold flow flowing towards the blood line on his wrist, slowly spreading to his whole body. Deep Phu Duong raised his wrist to look and saw that the blood line was much lighter and felt like it was being suppressed by the medicine. Asterisk, this chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. Just get there. Dam Tu Tuesday said. Quickly think of a way to find that ancient master, otherwise, Deep Phu Duong said. Let's discuss the plan first, and then figure it out. I have to deal with some things. We'll discuss with us later. Dam Tu Tuesday nodded. Then I'll go back to Sichuan first to prepare to do magic. That place has been closed for 3 years. I don't know if there are still magic items or not. She thought for a moment, and then said to Chu Tin Nu, "Little sister Tu Nu, please lend me your cell phone. If you have anything urgent, I can still come in time." Chu Tin Nu nodded. "Let me take you to buy a new phone. I will buy you a plane ticket to Sichuan." Deep Phu Duong told the girls to go ahead. There was nothing to help here anyway. Chu Tin Nu hesitated for a moment, reassured Deep Phu Duong, then held Dam Tu Tuesday's hand and left. As soon as the girls left, Ta Vu Tin hastily ran over. As soon as she entered the door, she rushed straight to Deep Phu Duong's bed. Seeing that he was still at peace, she breathed a sigh of relief. After hearing the general story, Ta Vu Tin grabbed Deep Phu Duong's wrist and observed, her expression blank, thinking for a moment and then saying, "So look, I think you're calling for danger, using the pretext of Tran Vu to rob you of your property. I'll arrange for you to have a few people investigate his whereabouts." Huma provided a clue. Early last month he found a new job, apparently at Hyson Game Company. I don't know if he's still there or not. Deep Phu Duong said. He's not stupid. He has a habit of being startled. He must have escaped. Then turned around and said to Ta Vu Tin, "You check his date of birth and let me know." "Why look up his date of birth?" Ta Vu Tin asked sadly. "You will know then." Deep Phu Duong didn't say much. Ta Vu Tin called several subordinates and divided them into 2 investigation teams. One team went to the school, the other team went to Tran Vu's workplace. Hanging up the phone, Ta Vu Tin said, "We're here waiting for the results." Deep Phu Duong wondered. "You asked your subordinates to investigate Tran Vu for no reason. Could there be any trouble?" "Of course there is." Ta Vu Tin looked at him. "But I don't care. Something happened to you. I can't ignore it." Hearing those words, Deep Phu Duong was a little moved. Old Quach frowned. "This kid is just a university student. How can he collude with the Gu Master? I think the Gu Master found him, gave him some benefits, and then asked him to do so." Deep Phu Duong said, "He is my roommate, good or bad. So when he used an excuse to invite me to my birthday, I had to go." Huma immediately scolded. "This guy is broken, carrying a snake to bite the chickens, selling his master for glory. When I find him, I will definitely beat his mother so that she won't recognize him." Having finished speaking, he still very manly punched the tea table. As a result, the tea table was fine. Only his hand hurt to death, so he quickly retracted his hand and rubbed it. About half an hour later, Ta Vu Tin received a phone call and quickly picked it up, saying, "You guys stay there. I'll be right over." Hanging up the phone, she turned her head to look at Deep Phu Duong excitedly. "Found Tran Vu. He is at Van Kwok Square." Everyone climbed into Ta Vu Tin's police car and drove to Van Kwok Square. On the way, Ta Vu Tin briefly told the process of finding Tran Vu. The police investigated when they arrived at Tran Vu's company and heard that he had resigned. When they were about to leave, luckily they encountered him returning to the company to pack his things. They immediately went to interrogate. Tran Vu ran away. They chased him behind. Arriving at Van Kwok Square, Tran Vu blended into the flow of pedestrians. Several police officers did not dare to enter casually to avoid giving him a chance to escape. So they immediately separated to surround the square, calling Ta Vu Tin to wait for instructions. There are too many people walking on the square. If we want to go in to investigate, we must send at least a dozen squads. Ta Vu Tin said miserably. I can only mobilize 2 squads as much as possible, unless it's to capture escaped prisoners. Otherwise, I can't mobilize the entire police squad. She gritted her teeth and continued. Really not. It's easy. I told him he was a robber, so I sent everyone to search. Deep Phu Duong said, don't mention that when the job is done, you will slander him and force him to become a robber, okay? Of course not. But Van Kwok Square is too large. At night there is a night market. When it gets dark, he can easily blend in with the crowd. There is nothing else to do but do that. At worst I will be accused. Except, Ta Vu Tin smiled helplessly. Deep Phu Duong moved in his heart and said, don't complicate the matter. Just give him his date of birth. I will have my own solution. At this time, everyone had arrived at the gate of Van Kwok Square. Ta Vu Tin got out of the car, led everyone to meet 2 subordinates. Asked the situation, a policeman said, this person is very cunning. Just now he ran into the crowd and couldn't get out. Now we can confirm that he is definitely still in the square. Deep Phu Duong asked, how long is the square? The policeman replied, the square has 4 branches, about 500 meters long and wide. Okay then. Deep Phu Duong instructed, help me find an empty room. Ta Vu Tin immediately led them to the security room, chased away the 2 guards, went outside and commandeered their room. As soon as Deep Phu Duong entered, he used a billboard to cover the window, creating a relatively dark space. Ta Vu Tin logged into the police registration system and found Tran Vu's date of birth, telling Deep Phu Duong. Deep Phu Duong took out a cinnabar pin from his backpack, drew a soul-shaping circle on the ground, then wrote the word sack. A cinnabar line entered the circle. Soul? Old Quach saw it and knew what Deep Phu Duong wanted to do, immediately startled. Little brother, he is a living person. If you want to capture the soul, you will definitely damage a lot of Yin virtue. Deep Phu Duong said, which is better to harm Yin virtue or death? You don't even have a life. What can you say about Yin and virtue? After speaking, he took a blank talisman and wrote on Tran Vu's birthday. However, in the household registration there is only the month of birth, no date of birth, not considered a birthday. For ordinary magicians, if they do not know the date of birth, they will not be able to read the face, not to mention summon souls. But Deep Phu Duong is a celestial master, and Tran Vu himself is within a radius of 500 meters. Only in the month of his birth, Deep Phu Duong was still able to summon souls normally. Deep Phu Duong lit the 3 colors incense, burned the talisman on the fire, and chanted in a loud voice. The sun falls into the sky. Heaven and earth open up, Mao Mountains. Magic, Yin and Yang harmonize. Ghosts and gods from all directions. Phoenix decrees me, forcefully attracts evil spirits, immediately. Tai Thuong Tam Tan issued orders according to the law. Tran Vu, 3 souls, 7 souls, return to the spirit altar, quickly return. A wave of sound immediately arose. In the soul-trapping circle suddenly appeared a shaking white shadow, looking like a person fiercely resisting. Aren't you coming yet? Deep Phu Duong sneered, stretched out his hand to grasp the other person's illusory image. The figure gradually became clearer, revealing the shape of Tran Vu. He was looking left and right, looking dazed, as if he didn't know. Why are you here? As soon as he saw Deep Phu Duong, he was suddenly stunned, his expression extremely scared. As soon as Tu Ma saw Tran Vu, he couldn't hold back his anger, forgetting that this was just Tran Vu's ghost, rushed in and hit him with a punch, but missed, almost fell to the ground, quickly scolded, and said to Deep Phu Duong, wait, let me beat him first. Angry, Deep Phu Duong said, Brother Quach, give Tu Ma a branch of peach wood. Oh, old Quach was confused. Soul-sucking living people is a taboo in the magic world, and even using punishment on him. These things truly offend the authority of the underworld. Deep Phu Duong said, what are you afraid of? If the underworld prosecutes you, let me fight it. It has nothing to do with you. Old man. As soon as Quach heard this, he pulled out a branch of the peach tree that specializes in exorcism and gave it to Tu Ma. Hit it until it smokes. Ma immediately raised the peach tree branch to hit Tranvu. You grapefruit. Tranvu cried out in pain. Was hit by the peach tree. A black mark appeared on his figure. White smoke, buzzing, rose up. Oh shit. It's really fuming. Ma smiled crookedly and once again raised the peach tree to hit Tranvu. Chapter 118. Beating until smoke rises 2. Asterisk this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. I'll kill you, I'll kill you. You're so good, aren't you? This is for your birthday. This is for the 100 flowers wine. Little Ma said while beating Chunyu, who jumped up and down, groaning continuously. Little Ma wanted to continue beating him, but Yi Xiaoyang stopped him, saying, "Don't beat him anymore. Don't beat him anymore. If you keep beating him, his soul will be scattered." Only then did Little Ma stop whipping Chunyu, glancing at him. His whole body was covered in black marks, his figure indistinct, giving the feeling that he was about to dissipate. "I'll spare you for now, but you have to answer whatever I ask. If you dare to tell a single lie." Little Ma threw away the whip and said emphatically. Chunyu was so scared that his whole body trembled, and he sobbed. "I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything. I'll tell you everything you ask." Yi Xiaoyang wiped his sweat. This Xiaoma really had the qualities of a hound. He immediately looked at Chunyu and asked in a low voice, "Chunyu, did you cast a spell on me?" "What?" Chunyu looked at him blankly, his voice trembling. "Wasn't it a laxative?" "Laxative?" Xiaoma was about to whip him again, but Chunyu cried for help. "Don't hit me. Don't hit me. I beg you. I really thought it was a laxative or some kind of diarrhea medicine." "Who?" "Xiaoyang brother. I'm sorry." Yi Xiaoyang said. "Who told you to do this?" "Chen Jinba. It was all Chen Jinba's idea. I didn't want to do it, but I was afraid he would take revenge on me, so..." Yi Xiaoyang and Xiaoma looked at each other. Chen Jinba, it was him again. Yi Xiaoyang suddenly remembered that he hadn't offended anyone in Shiqing except for Chen Jinba. This kid had lived a life of ease and comfort since childhood, never suffering any loss. And yet he had been humiliated in front of his subordinates like this. It was understandable that he wanted revenge. However, Yi Xiaoyang never imagined that he would conspire with a sorcerer and use such despicable methods to get revenge. It truly exemplified the saying, "It's better to offend a gentleman than a villain." Chapter 119. The Ghost Blows Aura. Asterisk this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Chu Jingru said on the other end of the phone, "Brother Xiaoyang, it's all over. My father pressured Chen Daido, Chen Jinba's father, and then went to find Chen Jinba. He admitted to doing it, but said he didn't know the sorcerer, that he had only met him once. Someone proactively approached him, saying they could help him get revenge on you. Took 200,000 yuan from him, gave him a bottle of oil, and then disappeared." Yi Xiaoyang was immediately confused upon hearing this. Initially, he thought the sorcerer was hired by Chen Jinba, given a sum of money to create a curse to harm him. He didn't expect that the sorcerer was using his conflict with Chen Jinba, using him to cast a curse. Who exactly is that disgusting person? What enmity do I have with him? How old is that sorcerer, and what does he look like? Yi Xiaoyang asked. Chen Jinba said he was around 40 years old, short, had a goatee, dark skin, but he couldn't remember any other characteristics. "I don't think he's lying." Yi Xiaoyang also knew that Chen Jinba wasn't lying. If he were, and he was discovered later, wouldn't that be a slap in the face to Zhou Ming? "Brother Xiaoyang, Chen Daido promised my father that as long as Chen Jinba admits it, this matter will be considered settled, so please don't make things difficult for my father." "I understand. If we don't do that, Chen Jinba won't tell the truth." Yi Xiaoyang said. "Right now I just want to find that sorcerer. I don't have time to meet him. Tell him to rest assured." Upon hearing this, Chu Jingru immediately felt relieved and said, "Chen Jinba gave me some information that I think might be useful to you. That sorcerer once asked him to help buy some traditional Chinese medicine, cinnabar, alum, and realgar, and then told him to deliver it to Juyin Mountain. Chen Jinba sent someone to deliver it, but they haven't returned yet." Yi Xiaoyang was stunned, then heard Chu Jingru continue. "I think that sorcerer might be in Juyin Mountain. I've investigated, and Juyin Mountain isn't too far from the mainland mountain village. It's even more remote than Nyojia village, just a small town. If the sorcerer is really there, The locals would surely know. I'll drive you to ask around. Yi Xiaoyang thought for a moment and said, you shouldn't. Asterisk this chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. Old Quach pointed to Chu Ma, who was pumping the tire. Hello, we accidentally passed by here. The tire had a flat tire, so we had to stay a bit. Everyone just continue with their work. Try to suppress the pain. The man carrying the coffin called a young man over, informed him a few words. The young man immediately walked past Mr. Quach, politely said, do you need any help from me? Old Quach said thank you, said it was okay, then asked, boy, please give me some advice. The person who just passed away was a young person? The young man sighed and said, it's my younger sister. She drowned at just 18 years old. Old Quach gave him a cigarette and asked kindly, I heard that the dead have to be brought to the dead, to the ancestral graves in your village. Why do you bring people to this place? Our village has a rule. If a family dies unexpectedly, they cannot be brought to the ancestral grave, nor cremated. They must be buried in the middle of the mountainside. Okay, I have to go to work. He waved his hand and ran back to the funeral procession. Deep Fu Duong looked intently at the 4 people carrying the coffin. The 2 people on the left seemed to be very tired, straining to carry the load. The coffin was tilted towards them. Old Quach also discovered the anomaly and said in a deep voice, lean to the left, welcome the demon god. This body, there is something wrong. The funeral procession team followed the small road to the side. First, coming to an empty piece of land, the Taoist immediately shouted, stop. Everyone stopped, placed the coffin on the ground. The Taoist took out a compass, with a leisurely look, walked back and forth within 20 meters, then chose a place, without explaining why, used his feet to kick, saying, digging the ground. Several young people holding picks and shovels advanced to that location. Not long after, they finished digging a hole. Under the command of the Taoist priest, the 2 coffin bearers stepped forward, placed the ironwood coffin into the hole, intending to nail the coffin. Deep Fu Duong then stepped forward and gently said, the coffin cannot be buried. Everyone turned to him at the same time, looking at this stranger in surprise. A few people's eyes showed anger. Chu Ma chased after him, pulled his clothes, and reminded him. Don't talk nonsense. Be careful of being beaten. The Taoist felt his authority was being provoked, looked at Deep Fu Duong angrily, and said fiercely, why can't you bury him? The dead person has demonic energy on his body. He can't bury it. Deep Fu Duong replied very calmly, but his words caused a big uproar in the funeral procession team. Farmers are superstitious, so when carrying ghosts, the most taboo thing is to listen to poetic stories, not to mention people dying unexpectedly. They are even more taboo. And that Taoist guy kept telling him to bury the body. Deep Fu Duong told him not to bury it, which was like slapping him in the face. He pointed straight at him. Deep Fu Duong's face said, who are you? Why do you dare to love the people, talk nonsense? Do you believe that my Taoist chanted the tongue-crushing mantra to make you mute? Deep Fu Duong asked curiously. Whoa, this is the first time I heard of this mantra. How to use it? Please teach me. Ill-mannered, go away quickly, don't delay my affairs. The old Taoist immediately cursed. Chu Ma was very angry when he heard this. He angrily rolled up his sleeves and scolded. You buffalo-nosed Taoist. Old Quach glared at him. Who said that? Chu Ma was stunned, then remembered that Old Quach and Deep Fu Duong were also Taoists. The sentence, buffalo-nosed Taoist, was originally intended to insult the other person. But who would have thought it would make people in the same house? He was extremely upset. Old Quach came forward and clasped his hands and said to the old Taoist, seeing that the mountain is not a mountain, seeing that the river is not a river, may I ask you what is the traditional name of Taoist? The old Taoist suddenly froze, waved his hand, and shouted, it's too messy. My Taoist is Heavenly Master Maoshan. There's nothing to do. Get out of the way. Heavenly Master Maoshan. Chu Ma glanced at Deep Fu Duong, then looked at the old Taoist, gave a thumbs up. Very good, dear friend. I admire you. Hee hee. Today you blew up your grandmother. The old Taoist saw that these people were speaking strangely, as if they were people in the sect, didn't want to get involved for too long. So he turned around and said to a few people, coffin bearer, the auspicious hour has come. Nail it. Deep Phu Duong still wanted to stop. Old Quach said in a low voice, "Little junior brother, don't move. Otherwise you will definitely be beaten. Just wait until the coffin can't be buried. Then they will know what is powerful. It's not too late for you to strike." Deep Phu Duong thought it was right, remained silent, just stood on the side of the coffin. The two pallbearers held a handful of 7-inch long nails and began hammering them down around the coffin. The old Taoist sat cross-legged next to him, holding the Dao Mok sword in his hand, chanting softly, as if he were casting a spell. As he hammered in the 7th nail, suddenly there was a cracking sound, and the nail immediately broke in half. A broken nail during a funeral is a very bad omen. The old Taoist rolled his eyes and scolded, "Why is that like that?" The pallbearer quickly picked up another nail, placed it on the coffin lid, and prepared to use a hammer to smash it down. As a result, before the hammer could reach the nail broke again. This scene made the remaining people extremely dissatisfied. Everyone scolded them for being irresponsible. The two pallbearers were irresponsible. The two pallbearers very unjustly. One person looked at the old Taoist and said, "Sir, it's really not us who did it. This is very difficult to understand. The hammer is not tilted. The nail is not tilted. Why? Useless thing. Leave it to me." The old Taoist snatched the hammer from his hand, jumped down himself, then grabbed another nail, placed it on the lid, preparing to hammer. Crack. The nail broke again. The old Taoist suddenly gasped. Without waiting for him to recover, there was suddenly a knocking sound in the coffin. Knock. Knock. The old Taoist was so scared that he slipped and fell to the ground, all 4 limbs clinging to the ground. Struggling to climb up, his face was so scared that he turned pale. He regained composure, wanted to cast a spell, touched his body, and discovered that Dao Mok Kim was missing. "Where's my sword? Where's my Dao Mok Kim?" As soon as he bowed his head, he saw Dao Mok Kim fall into the coffin lid in the hole. He was about to reach out to pick it up, but a second knock immediately occurred in the coffin, even louder than the previous knock, causing the whole coffin to swing and shake. The old Taoist was so scared that he repeatedly retreated back, falling into the mud. He wanted to get the Dao Mok sword back, but he did not dare to go near the coffin's mouth. In a moment of dilemma, suddenly the Dao Mok sword flew in front of him. "Let me borrow it, sir. Let's do magic." Deep Phu Duong smacked his lips and looked at him. "Let me see how capable the heavenly master Maoshan is." The old Taoist's face turned from red to white, turned around, looked at everyone who was confused and scared, said, "This is a lie. Quickly go get firewood for me. I have to burn it to death." As soon as he finished speaking, another knocking sound came from the coffin. This time it was longer, accompanied by a sad female voice. "Sad? Ada, Ada, 1. Let me go out. I'm not dead yet. I'm very scared. Let me out. 1. Ada." Father, ethnic language. As soon as he finished speaking, the surroundings immediately became quiet. The next 10 seconds, everyone screamed and retreated. The father of the dead man, the man from before, sat on the ground, crying and calling out, "Open the coffin. Quickly open the coffin. My daughter is not dead yet. Uncle, too. Please wake up. She is dead." A trembling young man advised, "To uncle, it's not dead. It's still alive." The man immediately stood up, rushed over and shouted loudly, "Open the coffin. Save my daughter, quickly." Everyone looked at each other. No one dared to move. The old Taoist was still screaming, "Fire! Quickly set the fire. Bring all the firewood over here." Both of them were screaming loudly. One wanted to set fire, one wanted to open the coffin. Deep Phu Duong and the others just stood outside and waited to watch. It was truly a funny story. Deep Phu Duong walked up to the man, patted his shoulder, and said, "The person in the coffin is no longer your daughter, but we have to open the coffin, otherwise big trouble will happen." "Just in time. I also want to open the coffin so you can see what your daughter has turned into."